Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku was raised by Bardock and Gine? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Legacy of the Stars. Blood splattered across Bardock's vision as he staggered through the corridor of the Saiyan medical facility. The technicians' concerned murmurs faded behind him, replaced by something far more terrifying, whispers from a future that shouldn't yet exist. He braced against the wall, his bandaged torso protesting each labored breath as images assaulted his consciousness. Planet Vegeta, suspended in space like a crimson jewel. Frieza's finger extended toward its surface, a miniature sun gathering at its tip. The planet's crust fracturing, its core destabilized. Extinction. But this time, the vision didn't end there. New images surfaced. His infant son, Kakarot, sleeping in an attack pod. A blue planet with vast oceans, strange warriors with power that defied comprehension. And a grown man with Bardock's own untamed hair, facing Frieza with eyes burning teal instead of black. Bardock collapsed to his knees, the cold floor anchoring him to reality. The mental assault receded, leaving him gasping but certain of three things. Frieza planned to destroy planet Vegeta, his son would survive if sent away, and somehow, impossibly, a third option existed beyond death or exile. He could escape with his family. Bardock. A soft voice pulled him back. Gine stood at the corridor's end, concern etched across features too gentle for a typical Saiyan. Her eyes widened at his condition. You should be in recovery. The mission too. None of that matters now. He cut her off, struggling to his feet. Where's Kakarot? In the nurturing chamber. Where else would he be? She approached cautiously, recognizing the wild look in his eyes, the one that appeared when his instincts screamed danger. What's happened? I'll explain everything, but not here. He gripped her shoulder with uncharacteristic urgency. Can you access the space pod launch controls? Gine's posture shifted subtly, the hesitant mate replaced by the efficient logistics officer who had once served in his squad. The night crew is minimal. I could redirect a launch sequence. Her eyes narrowed. But I need to know why. Because by tomorrow night, there won't be a planet Vegeta. 3 hours later, they stood in the deserted launch bay, the facility's lights dimmed for the planet's sleep cycle. Gine's fingers danced across the control panel while Bardock held their sleeping son. Infant's tail curled reflexively around his father's wrist, a gesture of trust the hardened warrior had never expected to affect him. I've programmed 3 pods, Gine whispered, her voice tight with controlled fear. Departure sequence will trigger simultaneously in 20 minutes, with false trajectory data feeding to Central Command. She looked up, the blue light of the console illuminating her face. Will that be enough time to retrieve Raditz from his mission? Bardock's jaw clenched. We can't. The communication would alert Frieza's forces. We can't leave our firstborn behind. Gine hissed, maternal instinct flaring. He's with Prince Vegeta's squadron. If anyone survives besides us, it will be the prince and his escorts. Bardock met her gaze unflinchingly. We must make this choice, Gine. The pain in her eyes nearly broke his resolve, but she nodded once, sharply. A warrior's decision. Where are we going? She asked, turning back to the console. Not Earth, Bardock decided, contradicting his earlier instinct. It's where Frieza will look once he realizes Kakarot's pod was redirected. We'll head to the Obsidian Nebula. The radiation interferes with Scouters and masks life signs. Gine's fingers hesitated over the coordinates. There's nothing habitable there, except Centera. Her eyes widened. The Forbidden Planet. The one King Vegeta declared off limits after the recon team disappeared. They didn't disappear, Bardock said grimly. They found something the royal family wanted kept secret. Something about ancient Saiyan history. It's habitable, isolated, and the last place Frieza would search. Quote, how do you know this? Bardock touched his temple. The visions don't just show destruction. They show possibilities. The launch bay doors slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Both Saiyans dropped into combat stances, Bardock shielding Kakarot with his body. Quite the operation you've got here, came a deep, amused voice as a massive figure ducked through the doorway. Planning a family vacation without permission. Nappa, Gine breathed, relaxing slightly though Bardock remained coiled for combat. The elite Saiyan commander folded massive arms across his chest. Stealing 3 attack pods is punishable by execution, you know. His eyes narrowed at the infant in Bardock's arms. Though I suspect that's the least of your concerns right now. You going to stop us? Bardock challenged, calculating whether he could defeat Nappa in his injured state. The odds weren't favorable. Nappa's laugh rumbled like distant thunder. Stop you? No, I came to make sure you succeed. He tossed a small data chip to Gine, who caught it reflexively. Emergency rations, shield upgrades, and the security codes for the outer defense grid. You'll need them to slip past the orbital patrols. Gine stared at the chip, bewildered. Why would you help us? Nappa's customary arrogance faded, replaced by something solemn. Because 3 hours ago, Prince Vegeta ordered me to prepare his pod for inspection, with extra provisions. Because Frieza's entire fleet has moved into high orbit without explanation. Because I've served the royal family long enough to recognize when even they are afraid. His gaze settled on Kakarot. And because our race deserves a future, even if our planet doesn't. The large Saiyan turned to leave, then paused. If you survive, Bardock, find my prince. Tell him. He struggled visibly with an uncharacteristic display of emotion. Tell him Nappa kept his oath. After he departed, Gine and Bardock worked in tense silence, loading E-pods with everything they could salvage. As the launch countdown entered its final sequence, Bardock placed Kakarot in the central pod's cushioned interior. I've linked the navigation systems, Gine said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. If we're separated, all pods will converge on Centera. Bardock nodded, sealing Kakarot's pod first. Through the red-tinted glass, he watched his son's peaceful face, unaware that his destiny was being rewritten. Not a conqueror sent to a distant world. Not a weapon aimed at Frieza's enemies. Something new, something unpredictable. Bardock, Gine called softly as they entered their own pods. If your vision is wrong, then we're traitors running from nothing, he finished. But if I'm right, the launch sequence initiated, and acceleration pressed them back against their seats. Through the viewports, planet Vegeta shrank rapidly, its red surface gleaming one last time before they pierced the upper atmos. Fear and emerged into the star-speckled void. Bardock didn't look back. His eyes were fixed forward, toward a future that, for the first time in his life, remained unwritten. The wilderness of Centera. A bent reluctantly under Kakarot's hands as he parted the massive purple fronds blocking his path. At 12 years old, his strength already surpassed what most adult Saiyans would have possessed on planet Vegeta. Yet the dense vegetation of his adoptive homeworld challenged even him. Behind him, his mother followed with practiced ease, her movements silent despite the undergrowth. You're still making too much noise, Gine observed, her voice barely audible over the constant background sounds of Centera's ecosystem. A blind Goldo could track you through this forest. Kakarot suppressed a frustrated growl. The plants move back into place after you pass. It's impossible to be silent. Impossible. One of Gine's eyebrows arched. Or merely difficult for a Saiyan who relies too heavily on brute force. To demonstrate, she stepped sideways, her body seeming to flow between the vegetation rather than push through it. The plants swayed but didn't crack or rustle as they had under Kakarot's more direct approach. You must feel the rhythm of this world, she continued, gesturing to their surroundings. Centera isn't like the training grounds your father constructed. This planet has existed for millions of years in perfect balance. To move through it undetected, you must become part of that balance. Kakarot nodded, frustration giving way to concentration. He closed his eyes, sensing the subtle energy patterns flowing through the forest, not ki exactly, but something adjacent to it. He adjusted his stance, matching his breathing to the pulsing life around him, then stepped forward. The vegetation parted with only the softest whisper. Better, Gine approved, rare pride warming her voice. Remember, Kakarot, strength alone will never be enough. Not against the enemies we will eventually face. They continued in silence, Kakarot practicing the technique until they reached a small clearing dominated by a crude structure built from salvaged pod materials and native resources. Outside, Bardock knelt beside a fire pit, methodically skinning a massive serpent-like creature with a precision that made the brutal act seem almost artistic. He didn't look up as they approached. Kakarot knew his father had sensed them long before they emerged from the tree line. Nothing escaped Bardock's notice, a trait that had kept them alive for 12 years in a wilderness that had med the lives of the original Saiyan reconnaissance team. Successful hunt? Gine asked, examining the carcass with an expert's eye. Ambush predator. Nested in the high canopy above the eastern ridge, Bardock reported. Getting sloppy though. I sensed its key from half a kilometer away. The large ones can't conceal their energy signatures like the young, Gine noted, already moving to prepare the meat for preservation. On Centera, nothing was wasted, a lesson they'd learned during their first harsh year. Bardock finally looked up, his scarred face revealing nothing as he assessed his son. Your training. Kakarot straightened instinctively. Combat drills at dawn, 300 repetitions of each sequence. Power output tests against the sensor arrays. Then tracking exercises with mother. And did you maintain stealth discipline? A moment of hesitation. Not consistently. Bardock's expression didn't change, but disappointment radiated from him nonetheless. The galaxy is filled with enemies who can detect power levels. Kakarot, a Saiyan who cannot control his energy signature is a dead Saiyan. Yes, father. Tomorrow, we'll work on energy suppression again. Bardock's tone softened marginally. Your power is growing faster than your control. That's natural, but dangerous. Kakarot nodded, recognizing the rare concession in his father's words. Since establishing their hidden compound on Centera, Bardock had driven Kakarot's training with relentless intensity. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. The universe contained threats that would show no mercy to an unprepared Saiyan, especially one connected to a traitor like Bardock. I need to check the perimeter sensors, Kakarot said, eager to redeem himself after the day's shortcomings. The eastern quadrant readings were inconsistent yesterday. Bardock nodded his approval, and Kakarot departed quickly, leaping into the air once beyond the clearing. Flight came naturally to him now, his key control allowing him to soar above Centera's multi-layered canopy where sunlight bathed the uppermost vegetation in golden hues. From this height, Kakarot could almost pretend he was the only person on the planet. The end. Less purple-green expanse stretched to the horizon, interrupted only by jagged mountain ranges and the occasional glint of water from one of Centera's deep, predator-filled lakes. In 12 years, I'd explored less than a tenth of the supercontinent they'd landed on. The solitude both comforted and confined him. He had never known other children, never experienced life beyond his parents' guidance in the unforgiving wilderness. Through his father's stories, he understood what it meant to be Saiyan, the pride, the power, the warrior heritage, but he'd never seen another of his kind besides his parents. Sometimes, in quiet moments like this, he wondered about the brother he'd never met. Raditz. Was he still alive? Did he serve Frieza now, believing his family perished with planet Vegeta? A distant tremor in the atmosphere interrupted his thoughts. Kakarot's eyes narrowed as he extended his senses, focusing on a disturbance barely perceptible against Centera's background energy. Summit. Hing had entered the upper atmosphere, something mechanical, directed, purposeful. A space pod. Heart racing, Kakarot abandoned the sensor check and rocketed back toward the compound. His father had prepared contingencies for discovery, drilled them ruthlessly into memory. Evasion protocols, emergency rendezvous points, last resort combat strategies against superior forces. He landed hard in the clearing, causing both parents to look up sharply from their tasks. Something's entered the atmosphere, he reported, all formality forgotten in the urgency. Southeastern approach vector, single craft, from what I could sense. Bardock was on his feet instantly, eyes closed in concentration. After a moment, they snapped open. Space pod, standard Frieza Force design. His voice remained calm, but his body tensed for combat. Gine, initiate Protocol 3. Without hesitation, Gine moved toward their shelter, activating a sequence on a concealed panel. Immediately, the structure's exterior began to shift, camouflage systems engaging to make it resemble natural formation rather than a dwelling. It could be a scout, Bardock continued, calculations visible behind his eyes. Or a random patrol. Either way, we need to intercept before it gets close enough to scan for life signs. I'll go, Kakarot volunteered, surprising both parents. Absolutely not, Gine countered immediately. If it's Frieza's forces, then I'll observe only, Kakarot promised. I can suppress my power level better than either of you while moving. This wasn't entirely true, Gine was still more skilled at stealth. But Kakarot knew his superior speed would be crucial. Bardock studied his son's face, weighing determination against risk. You maintain distance. No engagement. The moment you identify its origin or purpose, you return. Understood. Kakarot nodded sharply, already calculating intercept trajectories. Understood. Take this, Bardock said, removing a device from his wrist and tossing it to Kakarot. Prototype scouter I've been modifying. One-way signal only. It receives data but emits no detectable energy. Kakarot secured the device over his eye, the familiar red tint filtering his vision as data scrolled across its surface. Before his mother could voice further objections, he launched himself skyward, key suppressed to bare minimum as he accelerated toward the southeastern horizon. The Fr. Edom of full-speed flight sent exhilaration coursing through him despite the potential danger. This was what he'd trained for, the moment when practice became purpose. The scouter beeped softly, tracking the descending POD's trajectory. It would land approximately 20 kilometers away, well outside their normal patrol perimeter. Kakarot adjusted his course, pushing harder while maintaining energy discipline. Through broken clouds, he caught his first glimpse of the intruder, a white spherical pod trailing fire as it cut through Centera's atmosphere. The design matched his father's descriptions of standard Frieza Force equipment, though something about its descent path seemed erratic, almost damaged. Finding a suitable observation point atop a massive rock formation, Kakarot suppressed high-S energy completely and watched the POD's final approach. It hit with surprising force, the impact crater larger than necessary for a controlled landing. Vegetation ignited around the crash site, smoke billowing upward in a visible marker that made Kakarot's tactical sense cringe. No Frieza Force soldier would be so careless unless severely injured or incompetent. The POD's hatch remained closed for long minutes as the surrounding fires began spreading through the underbrush. Finally, with a hydraulic hiss audible even at Kakarot's distance, the door swung open. A slender figure stumbled out, collapsing immediately to one knee. Through the scouter's magnification, Kakarot observed details that sent confusion rippling through him. The newcomer wore damaged battle armor similar to his father's old gear, but styled differently. Long black hair fell in wild disarray around a face twisted in pain. Most shockingly, a furry brown tail, unmistakably Saiyan, lashed behind the figure. A female Saiyan, young, perhaps only a few years older than himself. Impossible. His father had confirmed countless times that no other Saiyans had escaped planet Vegeta's destruction. The stranger struggled to her feet, swaying dangerously before steadying herself against the POD's edge. Blood trickled from a wound at her temple, and her armor bore scorch marks consistent with energy weapon damage. Despite her obvious injuries, she maintained a defensive stance, scanning her surroundings with the wariness of a hunted predator. Kakarot's scouter beeped a warning. The female's power level fluctuated wildly, spiking between near depletion and bursts that rivaled his own maximum output. Such instability indicated severe trauma or desperation. His orders had been clear: identify and return. Yet something held him in place. Watching as the stranger retrieved a small device from her pod and consulted it briefly before discarding it with apparent disgust. She began shambling away from the crash site, NGLY picking a direction at random as the forest fire spread behind her. In minutes, she would be hopelessly lost in Centera's wilderness, or dead from the predators attracted by the smoke and her blood scent. Kakarot made his decision in an instant, abandoning his observation post in a burst of controlled speed. He touched down 30 meters ahead of the female Saiyan's path, intentionally landing with enough force to announce his presence without seeming threatening. The effect was immediate. Despite her injuries, the stranger dropped into perfect combat stance, energy flaring around her fists as her tail bristled defensively. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice hoarse but commanding. "Identify yourself." Kakarot remained motionless, hands deliberately visible at his sides. "I could ask you the same question," he responded calmly, "considering you're trespassing on my family's planet." The female's eyes widened, taking in his appearance more carefully. "You're Saiyan." Disbelief colored her voice. "That's impossible. All Saiyans are accounted for." "Clearly not," Kakarot countered, allowing himself a slight smile. "Since we're both standing here." She wavered slightly, the brief surge of combat readiness taxing her already depleted reserves. "If you're truly Saiyan," she challenged, "then where is your tail?" In response, Kakarot unwrapped his own tail from around his waist where he typically secured it during flight. The brown appendage waved briefly before settling into its usual position. The female Saiyan stared, conflict evident on her face as she processed this revelation. Before she could respond further, her knees buckled. Kakarot moved instinctively, crossing the distance between them in a blur of speed to catch her before she hit the ground. "Get off me," she growled, struggling weakly against his support. "I don't need." "Save your strength," Kakarot interrupted. "The crash site is attracting predators. We need to move." As if summoned by his words, a piercing shriek echoed through the forest canopy. The female Saiyan tensed, recognizing the sound of danger even on an unfamiliar world. "Fine," she conceded through gritted teeth. "But this changes nothing. I still don't trust you." "Trust isn't required for survival," Kakarot replied pragmatically, adjusting his hold to better support her weight. "But a name would be helpful." She hesitated, pride warring with practicality before the latter prevailed. "Lima," she answered finally. "Senior Cadet Lima of the Saiyan Restoration Corps." Kakarot frowned at the unfamiliar designation but filed it away for later questioning. "Kakarot," he offered in return. "Son of Bardock and Gine." Lima stiffened against him. "Bardock, the traitor." Before Kakarot could respond, multiple energy signatures registered on his senses, the distinctive predatory patterns of Centera's apex hunters converging on their position. The conversation would have to wait. "Hold on," he instructed, securing his grip around Lima's waist. "And try not to die before we get answers from each other." Despite her protests, he launched them both skyward, adjusting his flight path to minimize the energy signature they presented. As they soared over Centera's endless wilderness, Kakarot felt a strange certainty take root within him. The isolation that had defined his existence for 12 years had just ended, and the universe he thought he understood was about to become infinitely more complex. Bardock paced the perimeter of the clearing, energy tightly controlled but combat-ready. Gine watched from the shelter's concealed entrance, her own anxiety manifesting in the methodical sharpening of a hunting blade. "He should have returned by now," she said, breaking the tense silence. "Something's wrong." "Kakarot knows protocol," Bardock replied, though concern threaded through his gruff tone. If engagement was necessary, he would have signaled. Unless he couldn't. Gine set the blade aside, decision made. "I'm going after him." Before either could act, a disturbance in the air announced an approaching presence. Both Saiyans dropped into fighting stances, Bardock stepping protectively in front of Gine despite knowing she could defend herself. Kakarot appeared above the tree line, descending rapidly, and noticeably burdened. As he touched down in the clearing, Bardock's expression transformed from concern to shock. "Father," Kakarot began without preamble, "we have a situation." The unconscious female Saiyan in his arms rendered further explanation temporarily unnecessary. Gine moved first, Materna, instincts overriding caution as she rushed forward to assess the stranger's injuries. "Bring her inside," she ordered, transitioning seamlessly to medic mode. "Head wound, possible internal bleeding, severe energy depletion." Bardock remained frozen, staring at the impossible girl with undisguised disbelief. "Another Saiyan," he murmured, following as Kakarot carried Lima into their shelter. "How?" She called herself Lima, Kakarot reported while Gine swiftly prepared their limited medical supplies. "Senior cadet of something called the Saiyan Restoration Corps." "She recognized your name, called you the traitor." Bardock's eyes narrowed. "Impossible. Planet Vegeta was destroyed. No Saiyan Restoration Corps could exist. Yet here she is," Gine countered softly, applying regenerative gel to Lima's head wound. "Unmistakably Saiyan, wearing modified battle armor with insignia I don't recognize." Kakarot watched silently as his mother worked, cataloging the stranger's features with curiosity. Lima appeared perhaps 15 or 16, her frame lean but muscular in the distinctive Saiyan warrior mold. Her facial features possessed a sharpness his mother's gentler countenance lacked, high cheekbones, a prominent brow, and a jawline that suggested stubborn determination even in unconsciousness. Her pod was damaged, he continued his report. Crash landing rather than controlled descent. Based on the scorch patterns on her armor, she was in combat before arrival. Bardock nodded approvingly at his son's observational detail, then frowned. We need answers, but security comes first. Kakarot, retrieve her scouter and any other technology from the crash site. Then destroy the pod, completely. No evidence can remain. The crash already started a forest fire, Kakarot noted. It may consume the evidence naturally. Take no chances, Bardock insisted. Centera has hidden us for 12 years. I won't risk discovery now. As Kakarot departed to complete his mission, Bardock turned his attention back to the unconscious Saiyan. How serious are her injuries? Gine's hands moved with practiced efficiency, examining without invasiveness. Survivable. The head wound looks worse than it is. Mostly exhaustion and ki depletion. She looked up, meeting her mate's troubled gaze. Bardock, if there are other Saiyans, then everything we believed was wrong, he finished grimly. Or she isn't what she appears. Her tail is real, Gine noted. And her bone structure is unmistakably Saiyan. So was Turles, and he was no ally. Bardock began securing the shelter's interior. Defenses, subtle energy dampeners and alarm triggers placed strategically around their unexpected guest. Until we know more, she's a potential threat. Gine didn't argue. 12 years of survival had tempered her natural compassion with practical caution. Still, as she finished treating Lima's wounds, her hand lingered briefly on the girl's forehead in a gesture that transcended suspicion. She's just a child, she whispered. Younger than Raditz would be now. Bardock's expression softened momentarily at the mention of their firstborn, then hardened again with resolve. Age means little for Saiyans. We were both killing by her age. Not by choice, Gine reminded him quietly. Further conversation halted as Lima stirred, consciousness returning gradually. Her eyes, pure black like all full-blooded Saiyans, opened slowly. Focusing first on Gine, then shifting to Bardock with a sharpness that belied her injured state. So, she rasped, attempting to sit up despite Gine's restraining hand, the traitor lives. Lie still, Gine instructed firmly. Your body needs rest to recover. Lima ignored her, attention fixed on Bardock. You're supposed to be dead. All records indicate you perished with planet Vegeta. Convenient for me, Bardock replied evenly. Though apparently those records are incomplete in multiple ways. He folded his arms across his chest, intimidating despite his relaxed posture. You claim to be part of a Saiyan Restoration Corps. Explain. Lima struggled again to sit upright, succeeding this time through sheer determination. Gine sighed but adjusted the bedan. To support the stubborn girl's new position. I don't claim anything, Lima retorted, pride evident in her posture despite her weakened state. I am Senior Combat Cadet Lima, identification Gamma 964. Stationed on New Sadala under Commander Paragus. The name struck Bardock like a physical blow. Paragus lives. Of course he lives, Lima said with evident confusion. He's the founder of the Restoration Movement and military governor of New Sadala. New Sadala doesn't exist, Bardock countered flatly. Sadala was the original Saiyan homeworld, destroyed centuries before planet Vegeta's colonization. Lima's expression shifted from defiance to confusion. What are you talking about? New Sadala was established 15 years ago in the Tannhauser sector, after the surviving Saya NS regrouped following Frieza's betrayal. A heavy silence fell as Bardock and Gine exchanged significant looks. Something fundamental wasn't aligning in their understanding of recent history. How many Saiyans survived? Gine asked softly, hope and disbelief warring in her voice. Lima's eyes narrowed with growing suspicion. 37 originally. Now over 100 with the birth of new Gene. Rations and recovery of scattered survivors. She studied their shocked expressions with dawning comprehension. You really don't know, do you? You've been hiding on this backwater planet all this time, thinking you were the only survivors. Quote, we had confirmation of planet Vegeta's destruction, Bardock stated firmly. And every reason to believe Frieza would hunt down any survivors. He did, Lima confirmed grimly. Still does. Why do you think my pod was damaged? I barely escaped his advanced scouts in the Cerulean system. Her expression darkened. But we fight on. We rebuild. We prepare for the day we can avenge our race. Her gaze turned accusatory. While you've been hiding. Bardock's expression remained impassive, though Gine could sense the conflict within him. We've been surviving, he corrected. And preparing our son for a future where he might face Frieza from a position of strength rather than suicidal vengeance. Before Lima could respond, Kakarot returned, his arrival heralded by a subtle shift in the air pressure within the shelter. He carried a small collection of technology salvaged from the crash site. Pod is destroyed, he reported, then noticed their guest's conscious state. You're awake. Lima's attention shifted to Kakarot, reassessing him with new awareness. You're younger than you look, she observed critically. Power level impressive for your age, though. Raw potential, trained potential, Bardock corrected. Kakarot has never known the luxury of peace. Lima snorted. None of us have. She gestured to the salvaged technology. My communicator. I need it. Not until we understand the full situation, Bardock countered. Starting with how you found Centera. I didn't find anything, Lima said with evident frustration. I was escaping Rieza's scouts after a reconnaissance mission went wrong. My navigation system was damaged in the firefight. I set course for the nearest habitable planet in hopes of repairs. Her expression grew troubled. I was supposed to rendezvous with my squadron at Outpost Delta 7 2 days ago. When I fail to appear, they'll initiate search protocols. The implications hung heavy in the air. If other Saiyans came looking for Lima, their carefully maintained secrecy would be compromised. We need to move, Bardock decided, years of tactical thinking crystallizing into decisive action. Centera is no longer secure. Kakarot, begin loading essential supplies and equipment. Gine, prepare the emergency vessel. Emergency vessel, Lima echoed, confusion evident. You think we survived 12 years without an escape plan? Gine asked with uncharacteristic sharpness as she moved efficiently around the shelter, activating hidden compartments containing supplies and weapons. Kakarot worked with similar focus, disassembling crucial systems and packing them into specialized containers. The fluid coordination of the family unit spoke volumes about their preparedness. This wasn't a panicked flight but the execution of a long-established contingency. Where will you go? Lima asked, struggling to her feet despite her body's protests. Frieza controls most of this sector. We have options, Bardock replied cryptically, activating a small handheld device that projected a holographic star map. Though your arrival changes calculations, New Sadala's existence, if confirmed, offers possibilities we hadn't considered. You think I'm lying? Lima demanded, offended. I think verification precedes trust, Bardock replied evenly. Especially when survival depends on it. Kakarot paused in his work, studying Lima with undisguised curiosity. This Saiyan Restoration Corps, what's its purpose beyond survival? Lima straightened proudly despite her injuries. To rebuild Saiyan civilization, to recover our scattered people, to preserve our culture and heritage. Her eyes hardened, and ultimately, to destroy Frieza and reclaim our place in the universe. How? Kakarot pressed, genuine interest evident. Frieza's power is said to be unmatched in the galaxy. The legends speak of a transformation, Lima replied, voice dropping to near reverence. The Super Saiyan, Commander Paragus believes is achievable through proper training and genetic selection. Her gaze lingered on Kakarot with new assessment. That's why we recover all Saiyan survivors, to strengthen the bloodline and increase our chances of producing the legendary warrior. Bardock and Gine exchanged another significant look at this revelation, one that didn't escape Kakarot's notice. His father had spoken of the Super Saiyan legend during training, but always as a metaphorical goal rather than an achievable state. This New Sadala, Gine interjected, redirecting the conversation. How does it remain hidden from Frieza's forces? Advanced cloaking technology salvaged from abandoned Tuffle outposts, Lima explained. And strategic location within an ionized nebula that disrupts conventional scanning methods. Pride crept into her voice. We're building a civilization that honors Saiyan traditions while incorporating technologies our ancestors were too proud to adopt. And your leadership structure? Bardock inquired, tactical mind assessing potential allies and threats alike. Commander Paragus oversees military operations. The Council of Survivors handles civilian governance. Lima's expression darkened slightly. Though everything ultimately answers to Prince Vegeta. The prince lives, Gine gasped, genuine shock breaking through her composed exterior. Of course, Lima replied, confusion returning. He's the symbol of our restoration. Though he rarely participates in daily operations, focusing instead on his personal training regime. Kakarot absorbed this information silently, mentally reconstructing a universe far more complex than the isolated existence he'd known. Other Saiyans, a hidden colony, a prince, the possibility of transformation beyond current limitations. Your arrival presents both opportunity and risk. Bardock finally stated, decision apparently reached. We've survived by remaining invisible to Frieza's forces. Joining other Saiyans would mean exchanging isolation for different vulnerabilities. You would refuse to help your own race. Lima challenged, indignation flaring. I would ensure my family's survival above all else, Bardock corrected firmly. Just as I did, 12 years ago when we fled planet Vegeta. You fled before the destruction, Lima realized, pieces connecting in her mind. You knew it was coming. How? That's not relevant to our current situation, Bardock deflected. Though tension in his jaw revealed the question's impact. Gine intervened smoothly, maternal authority asserting itself. What matters now is securing our immediate safety. Lima, you need rest to recover your strength. We have approximately 12 hours before your absence might trigger a search response from your people. We'll use that time to prepare for departure. Lima looked ready to argue but swayed slightly on her feet, physical weakness undermining her determination. Kakarot moved to steady her with reflexes honed through years of combat training. My mother's right, he said quietly. Strategic retreat and recovery before engagement. Basic tactics. Lima glared at him but allowed herself to be guided back to the recovery bed. Fine, but I need to contact my squadron eventually. They'll consider me killed in action otherwise. We'll address communications after we've secured an alternative location, Bardock stated with finality. For now, rest and recover. Your combat value is minimal in your current state. As Lima reluctantly settled, Bardock gestured for Kakarot to join him outside. Once beyond the shelter's confines, he spoke in low tones that wouldn't carry to their guest. I need your assessment, he said, respecting his son's observational abilities. Your instincts about her story. Kakarot considered the question seriously, reviewing all he'd witnessed since encountering Lima at the crash site. Her injuries are consistent with her claimed escape scenario. The damage patterns on her armor match Frieza Force weapon signatures from your descriptions. Her fighting stance when threatened was pure Saiyan technique, though with variations I haven't seen you use. He paused, organizing his thoughts. Most telling is her reaction to your name. The term, traitor, suggests an established narrative about your actions before planet Vegeta's destruction, something she could only know if other Saiyans with that knowledge survived. Bardock nodded, a hint of pride breaking through his stern facade. My conclusions as well, which leaves us with decisions to make. About New Sadala, about everything, Bardock corrected grimly. If what she claims is true, the universe is fundamentally different from what we believed. Other Saiyans, organized resistance, Paragus alive and in command. His expression darkened, and Prince Vegeta, W. Ho would remember me as one of his father's warriors. Kakarot absorbed the implications silently. His entire life had been structured around the belief that they were the last of their kind, hiding Ram an overwhelming force that would exterminate them without hesitation. Now that foundation was shifting beneath his feet. What will we do? He finally asked. Bardock's gaze drifted to the star-filled lead sky visible through breaks in Centera's canopy. We adapt. We gather information. We verify before committing. His eyes returned to his son, intense and focused. But first, we leave Centera. Whatever else is true, our security here is compromised. Where will we go? A rare smile, predatory and confident, crossed Bardock's face. Sometimes the best hiding place is where no one expects to find you. He placed a hand on Kakarot's shoulder, an unusually demonstrative gesture for the hardened warrior. How do you feel about visiting the planet that featured so prominently in my original visions? The blue world where your counterpart would have grown up in another reality. Kakarot's eyes widened with recognition. Earth, Bardock confirmed. Distant enough from conventional trade routes to avoid casual detection, but developed enough to provide resources we'll need. And according to both my visions and intercepted Frieza Force communications, home to objects of immense power, Dragon Balls. The wish-granting orbs you mentioned in your stories, Kakarot recalled, excitement building despite his training in emotional control. You believe they're real. I believe nothing without evidence. Bardock stated firmly. But we need options, Kakarot. If Frieza truly hunts surviving Saiyans as Lima claims, then joining New Sadala might simply mean dying alongside the others when he eventually finds them. Unless the Super Saiyan legend is true, Kakarot suggested, the concept both fascinating and unsettling. Bardock's expression grew distant, haunted by visions long suppressed. Perhaps, but legends rarely unfold as expected. He looked back toward the shelter where Gine efficiently packed their lives into portable containers while monitoring their unexpected guest. For now, we follow the plan. Preparation, departure, security. Then we evaluate our new reality with complete information. Kakarot nodded, absorbing the lesson in strategic thinking. As they turned back toward the shelter, a strange sensation prickled at the edge of his consciousness, not danger exactly, but something equally potent. Change, challenge, possibility. For 12 years, his existence had been defined by hiding in preparation for a confrontation that seemed inevitable yet distant. Now, with Lima's arrival, the abstract future had crystallized into immediate reality. The universe, beyond Centera awaited, filled with allies, enemies, and countless unknowns. For the first time in his young life, Kakarot felt truly Saiyan, a warrior facing destiny with equal parts caution and hunger for what lay ahead. The emergency vessel hummed with barely restrained power as Bardock completed the pre-launch sequence. Unlike their original escape pods, this craft represented 12 years of scavenged technology and ingenious modifications, larger, faster, and equipped with advanced stealth systems that would confound even Frieza's best detection equipment. In the vessel's modest living quarters, Gine secured the last of their essential supplies while Kakarot monitored Lima, who had regained enough strength to sit upright and observe their preparations with critical interest. This ship, she noted. Professional assessment overriding personal animosity, it's no standard model. Built it ourselves, Kakarot explained with understated pride. Father salvaged the core engine from a derelict freighter we found in the asteroid belt 3 years ago. The hull plating came from mining drones that strayed too close to Centera's orbit. Lima's eyebrows rose slightly, the closest thing to approval she'd displayed since regaining consciousness. Impressive adaptation. Though your cloaking technology seems primitive compared to New Sadala's systems, it's sufficient for our needs, Kakarot replied evenly, refusing to rise to the implied criticism. We've avoided detection for 12 years. By hiding on an uninhabited world, Lima countered. Different from navigating populated space lanes. Before Kakarot could respond, the ship's internal communications activated with a soft chime. Final preparations complete, Bardock's voice announced. Departure in 10 minutes. Secure for atmospheric transition. Lima struggled to stand, determination overriding physical weakness. I should contact my squadron before we leave orbit. They need to know I'm alive. Not yet, Gine said firmly, guiding Lima back to the secured medical berth with gentle but unyielding hands. Until we're safely away from Centera and have verified your claims, communications remain restricted. You think I'm lying, or leading Frieza's forces to you? Lima demanded, frustration evident. We think caution has kept us alive, Kakarot answered for his mother, securing the last of the medical supplies. Trust is earned, not given freely. Quote, rich coming from the son of the Saiyan who fled while his planet died, Lima muttered, though the barb lacked conviction. Kakarot's expression remained neutral, years of his father's discipline training him to control emotional reactions. My father saved his family through foresight. Would you have preferred we died for pride's sake? The question hung in the air between them, unanswered as the ship's engines increased their pitch. Gravity shifted subtly as the craft lifted off, accelerating smoothly through Centera's dense atmosphere. From the viewport in the living quarters, Kakarot watched their home of 12 years recede beneath them, the purple-green expanse of forest, the jagged mountain ranges, the deep lakes reflecting Centera's twin suns. For all its dangers and isolation, the planet had shaped him, challenged him, prepared him. Now it was just another memory. Lima joined him at the viewport, moving carefully to compensate for her injuries and the ship's acceleration. "You'll miss it," she observed, surprising Kakarot with the insight. "It was all I knew," he acknowledged simply. "New Sadala could be your home," she offered, voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Where you belong. Among your own kind, perhaps." Kakarot turned from the viewport as Centera's atmosphere gave way to the star-speckled blackness of space. "But first, we're going to Earth." Lima frowned. "Earth? That primitive backwater. What possible value could it have?" "Answers," Kakarot replied cryptically, echoing his father's approach to information sharing. "And possibilities." As if summoned by the conversation, Bardock appeared in the doorway connecting the cockpit to the living quarters. "Course set. Stealth systems engaged. Estimated arrival at Earth in 17 days at current velocity." His eyes settled on Lima, assessment evident in his gaze. "Your recovery is proceeding adequately." "I'll survive," she replied stiffly. "Though I still require my communicator to contact my squadron. After we've cleared this sector," Bardock stated with finality. "For now, you should focus on regaining your strength. Kakarot will continue your medical treatment under Gine's supervision." Quote. The implied assignment wasn't lost on Kakarot. Keep the stranger occupied, gather information, assess potential threats or advantages. His father had always approached every situation as a tactical exercise, and this was no exception. As Bardock returned to the cockpit, Lima's eyes followed him with a complex mixture of emotions, suspicion, curiosity, and reluctant respect. "He's not what I expected," she admitted quietly. "Few things ever are," Kakarot observed, beginning to prepare the medical supplies his mother had instructed him to administer. "Which is why we verify before believing." Lima watched his movements with professional interest. "You've been trained in medical techniques. Basic field medicine, emergency treatment, fundamental xenobiology," Kakarot listed casually. "Mother insisted every warrior should know how to heal as well as harm." Unusual philosophy for Saiyans, Lima noted, though without her earlier judgment. "We've had to be unusual to survive," Kakarot countered, cleaning her head wound with practiced efficiency. "Traditional Saiyan approaches weren't always applicable to our situation." Lima winced slightly at his ministrations but maintained her composure. "The Restoration Corps has similar pragmatism. Commander Paragus believes our race fell because we clung too rigidly to outdated traditions." "Like what?" Kakarot asked, genuine curiosity breaking through his cautious demeanor. "Rejecting technology beyond weapons and transportation. Dismissing tactical retreat as cowardice. Viewing anything other than direct combat as beneath a warrior's dignity." Lima's voice carried the cadence of lessons repeatedly drilled into memory. "Commander Paragus teaches that true Saiyan strength adapts rather than stagnates." Kakarot nodded, surprisingly aligned with this philosophy. "Father says similar things, though he speaks from experience rather than ideology." "The experience of running away," Lima challenged, though the words lacked their earlier venom. "The experience of surviving when others didn't," Kakarot corrected firmly, completing his treatment and stepping back. "Results matter more than methods." A ghost of a smile crossed Lima's face, the first Kakarot had witnessed. "That, at least, sounds properly Saiyan." She tested her limbs experimentally, satisfaction evident as pain responses diminished. "Your medical techniques are effective. Mother is a better healer," Kakarot admitted. She treated hundreds of warriors in her time with the Saiyan Medical Corps. Medical Corps. Lima's brow furrowed in confusion. Planet Vegeta had no dedicated medical division for Saiyans. Healing tanks, yes, but not specialized personnel. Kakarot paused, realizing he'd revealed information his parents might have preferred to keep private. "That's something you should discuss with my mother." Before Lima could press further, the ship's lighting shifted to a deeper blue, the signal that they had cleared Centera's solar system and engaged the primary drive systems for interstellar travel. The subtle vibration beneath their feet changed pitch as the vessel accelerated to speeds that transformed nearby stars into streaks of light through the viewport. 17 days to Earth, Kakarot mused, calculating training possibilities during the journey. Enough time for you to fully recover. And for us to learn more about this Saiyan Restoration Corps. Lima's expression closed slightly at the implied interrogation. "Information exchange works both ways, Kakarot. I have questions of my own." "Fair enough," he conceded. recognizing the opportunity to build trust through reciprocity. Though some answers may come from my parents rather than me. Starting with why Bardock is called the traitor in our historical records. Lima stated, watching carefully for his reaction. Kakarot maintained his composure, though curiosity flared within him. His father had never mentioned being labeled a TR, either by other Saiyans, only that he'd chosen family over loyalty to a doomed regime. Perhaps we could begin with something simpler, he suggested diplomatically. Like how you became part of this restoration corps. Lima considered this redirection, then nodded slightly. I was born on New Sadala 8 years ago. My parents were among the original survivors, elite scouts who were off-planet during Frieza's attack. All children with suitable potential are entered into cadet training at age 4. I showed exceptional aptitude for infiltration and reconnaissance operations. 8 years old, Kakarot couldn't hide his surprise. You appear older. Saiyan aging patterns are accelerated compared to most species, Lima explained with evident pride. We reach combat readiness faster than our enemies expect. It's an evolutionary advantage. The information aligned with what Kakarot knew of his own development, his body maturing rapidly during growth phases while his mental acuity developed in parallel. Still, Lima's composure and combat readiness at 8 years old impressed even him. And your mission before crash landing here? He inquired, maintaining conversation while surreptitiously checking her vital signs as his mother had instructed. Lima's expression darkened. Intelligence gathering in the Cerulean system. Frieza's forces have established new outposts in 3 sectors previously considered neutral territory. My squadron was tasked with assessing troop strength and weapon capabilities. Her fists clenched unconsciously. We were discovered during extraction. The others read a diversion so I could escape with the data. The implication hung silently between them, her squadron members likely captured or killed to secure her escape. Kakarot recognized the weight of survivor's guilt in her posture, though she masked it well beneath Saiyan stoicism. The data in your communicator, he realized. That's why you're so insistent on contacting your base. Lima nodded sharply. Information purchased with lives. If it doesn't reach Commander Paragus, their sacrifice was meaningless. Understanding dawned in Kakarot's mind. Lima's urgency wasn't merely about protocol or personal safety but honor and purpose. The realization shifted his perception of their passenger from potential threat to warrior completing a mission. I'll speak with my father, he decided. Once we're safely beyond detection range, he may reconsider the communications restriction. Genuine gratitude flickered across Lima's face before she masked it with a curt nod. Your assistance would be appreciated. The conversation lapsed into silence as the ship continued its journey, stars streaming past the viewport in rivers of light. Kakarot found himself studying Lima with renewed interest, not just as an unexpected complication or source of information, but as the first peer he'd ever encountered. Another young Saiyan, shaped by different circumstances yet driven by familiar warrior principles. For all his father's training and his mother's teachings, something fundamental had been missing from his development on Centera: context. Interaction with others beyond his parents. Understood. His heritage through more than secondhand stories and combat drills. As the ship carried them toward Earth and whatever awaited there, Kakarot felt a strange anticipation building within him. Isolated existence he'd known was ending, replaced by complexity and possibility he could scarcely imagine. Whatever came next, he would face it as his father had taught him, with strategy, strength, and the unshakable certainty that adaptation was the true key to Saiyan survival. Chapter 2. Earthbound Destiny. Earth's azure atmosphere parted before the cloaked vessel like water around a stone, Fr. Iction heating its exterior while sophisticated thermal dispersal systems prevented catastrophic failure. In the cockpit, Bardock's hands moved with practiced precision across alien controls, making minute adjustments to their descent vector. Atmospheric composition matches database parameters, he noted, eyes scanning readouts. Nitrogen-oxygen balance suitable for Saiyan physiology. Gravity approximately 10 times less than planet Vegeta's standard. Beside him, Gine monitored communication frequencies with practiced vigilance. Multiple broadcast signals detected, primarily electromagnetic spectrum technologies. Primitive compared to galactic standard, but surprisingly diverse. Primitive doesn't mean harmless, Bardock cautioned, banking the ship to avoid a concentrated population CENTER that glowed against the planet's darkened hemisphere. Remember the Yardrats. In the ship's rear compartment, Kakarot and Lima pressed against viewports, absorbing their first glimpses of Earth's surface. Mountains pierced cloud layers, oceans stretched beyond visual range, and the lights of human civilization created constellations against the darkness. "It's beautiful," Kakarot admitted, surprised by his own reaction. Lima snorted, unimpressed. "Beauty doesn't win battles. This planet has strategic vulnerabilities written across its surface. Fragmented governments, isolated population centers, minimal orbital defenses." Her eyes narrowed analytically. Frieza could conquer it within a planetary rotation. Then why hasn't he? Kakarot challenged, gesturing toward the sprawling landscape below. Earth lies well within range of Frieza force expansion patterns, yet remains untouched. Lima frowned, professional assessment overriding dismissiveness. Unknown. Perhaps resources deemed insufficient to justify occupation costs. Or something here is worth more unnoticed, Kakarot suggested, recalling his father's references to Dragon Balls. Perfect camouflage is sometimes indistinguishable from insignificance. The ship shuddered as Bardock engaged landing protocols, descending toward a remote mountain range far from dense population centers. Precision thrusters control their final approach to a plateau sheltered by towering peaks and dense forest cover. "Landing site secure," Bardock announced as the vessel touched down with barely a tremor. External scans show no artificial structures within 50 kilometers. Minimal life sign readings, nothing that registers as sentient or technologically capable. Gine rose from her station, always practical. "I'll prepare reconnaissance gear. Kakarot, assist Lima with environmental adaptation equipment." Centera's atmospheric composition was similar to planet Vegeta's. Earth will feel different to her lungs. As the hers prepared for their first steps on Earth, Bardock remained at the controls, eyes closed in concentration. The visions that had guided their escape from planet Vegeta had grown less frequent over the years. But arrival on Earth seemed to trigger something within his psyche, fragmented images flickering behind his eyelids. A circular arena filled with cheering humans. Mountains shattering from the impact of colliding powers. Golden light erupting from within a figure that resembled his son. 7 crystal spheres pulsing with otherworldly energy. He opened his eyes, suppressing the disoriented ion that followed these glimpses of potential futures. Whatever awaited them on Earth existed simultaneously as threat and opportunity. Navigating between these poles would require caution unprecedented in their 12 years of isolation. The ship's hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss, releasing the scent of Earth into the vessel. Conifer resins, mineral-rich soil, clean mountain air carrying subtle differences from Centera's heavier atmosphere. Kakarot stepped onto the ramp first, senses instantly cataloging environmental details. The ambient temperature registered as comfortably cool, the gravity noticeably lighter than what he'd known his entire life. Breathable, he confirmed after several experimental inhalations. Though the oxygen concentration feels almost intoxicating compared to Centera. Lima followed, moving with caution born of tactical training rather than physical weakness. Her recovery had progressed remarkably during their 17-day journey, Saiyan resilience eras. Ing all but the faintest traces of her injuries. She wore modified armor assembled from the family's spare components, her original damaged equipment preserved only for potential intelligence value. "This gravity is laughable," she observed, testing her weight with experimental jumps that carried her far higher than intended. Even infant Saiyans could function at full combat efficiency in these conditions. "Which means controlled power output becomes essential," Bardock stated as he emerged from the ship carrying portable scanning equipment. "A single careless movement could level terrain or kill indigenous life forms. Discretion is our primary defense until we understand this world more thoroughly." Gine completed their landing party, expression thoughtful as she surveyed their surroundings. "The flora resembles descriptions from the archives. Earth hasn't experienced the environmental collapse that affected many Frieza-conquered worlds. We establish perimeter security first," Bardock instructed, defaulting to tactical priorities, then preliminary exploration in pairs. "Kakarot, you and Lima scout eastward. Gine and I will establish a base camp and analyze settlement feasibility." Lima tensed at being assigned away from the adults. "Commander, with respect, I'm not your commander," Bardock interrupted firmly. But while you travel with my family, you follow my tactical assessments. Kakarot knows hostile terrain adaptation better than you, and you need to acclimate to Earth's conditions. The rebuke was delivered without anger but with unmistakable authority. Lima Rez pondered with ingrained military discipline, straightening her posture. Understood. Eastward reconnaissance, environmental assessment, threat identification. And stay below the cloud layer, Bardock added, glancing skyward. This planet likely has rudimentary satellite monitoring. Flight signatures would draw unwanted attention. As the young Saiyans departed, Gine approached her mate with knowing eyes. You paired them deliberately. Bardock began unpacking sensor arrays without looking up. Lima's recovery is complete. If she intended treachery, isolation with Kakarot provides opportunity while limiting risk to us. If her loyalties lie truly with her Saiyan brethren, working alongside Kakarot strengthens that bond. And if she attempts to contact her people behind our backs? A rare smile crossed Bardock's face. Then the modified tracking protocol I embedded in her communicator during repair will alert us immediately. He straightened, meeting Gine's gaze directly. 17 days of observation suggests she's exactly what she claims, a Saiyan warrior trained in different traditions but driven by familiar principles. Gine nodded, satisfied with the assessment. She watches Kakarot when she thinks no one notices. Evaluating, comparing, finding him worthy, by all appearances, Bardock noted. Which may prove useful regardless of which path we choose moving forward. There. Conversation paused as both Saiyans focused on establishing their position on this new world, setting up perimeter sensors, analyzing soil samples, constructing temporary shelters using materials that would register as natural formations to primitive scanning technology. Through it all, Bardock's mind returned repeatedly to the fragmented visions that had guided them to Earth. Something awaited them here, something that would transform their careful survival into something far more significant. Kakarot moved through Earth's forest with practiced stealth, each step precisely placed despite the disorienting lightness of the planet's gravity. Beside him, Lima struggled more visibly with the adjustment, her movements betraying occasional overcompensation that sent her bounding higher than intended. Relax your quadriceps before landing, Kakarot suggested quietly. Let your ankles absorb the reduced impact rather than pushing against it. Lima shot him an irritated glance but adjusted her technique accordingly. Her next steps noticeably smoother. On New Sadala, we train in variable gravity chambers to prepare for different planetary conditions. Impressive technology, Kakarot acknowledged, genuinely interested. Father constructed resistance fields for my training, but nothing that could simulate gravitational differences. Your training seems effective regardless, Lima conceded, observing his fluid adaptation to the environment. Though your combat style remains untested against seasoned opponents. Kakarot accepted the implicit challenge with a slight smile. Perhaps we could spar later. After reconnaissance is complete, I'd welcome the opportunity to learn New Sadala's techniques. Before Lima could respond, both Saiyans froze at a new sound penetrating the forest can. Oppi, mechanical throbbing unlike any natural phenomenon. Kakarot signaled for stillness, extending his senses beyond visual range to identify the disturbance. Aircraft, he whispered after a moment. Primitive combustion technology, approaching from the northeast at approximately 200 km per hour. Lima nodded, already calculating interception trajectories. Threat assessment, unknown without visual confirmation, Kakarot replied, gesturing toward a nearby ridge that offered elevation without exposing their position. Let's observe first. They traversed the distance in seconds. Saiyan speed rendering them nearly invisible to casual observation. From their elevated position, they watched as a helicopter, bulky and utilitarian in design, approached the mountain range. Large C. Orporate insignia decorated its side, a stylized double R emblem in vivid crimson. Military, Lima questioned, noting the aircraft's reinforced chassis and weapons mounts. Corporate, according to Father's briefing materials. Kakarot corrected, recalling information gathered during their journey. Earth's power structures are divided between governmental and commercial entities, often with overlapping interests and capabilities. The helicopter altered course, flying parallel to the ridge they occupied before disappearing behind a distant peak. Its presence alone confirmed their landing site. Hadn't been chosen randomly, Something in this region had attracted attention from Earth's power players. We should follow it, Lima suggested, combat readiness evident in her posture. Kakarot weighed the suggestion against his father's orders. Reconnaissance didn't preclude investigation of potential threats, provided they maintained stealth discipline. Agreed, but we observe only. No engagement without clear necessity. They descended the ridge and moved through the forest at enhanced speed, following the helicopter's trajectory while remaining beneath the canopy to avoid aerial detection. The terrain grew increasingly rugged, natural forest giving way to rocky outcroppings and narrow ravines. Eventually, they reached a vantage point overlooking a plateau where the helicopter had landed. Beside what appeared to be a research installation. Temporary structures, Kakarot noted, analyzing the prefabricated buildings and equipment arrays. Recently established. Minimal environmental integration. Lima's eyes narrowed as she studied the facility. Perimeter sensors, automated defense turrets disguised as environmental monitoring equipment. This isn't standard research methodology. No, Kakarot agreed, impressed by her tactical assessment. They're protecting something valuable. As they observed, personnel emerged from the helicopter, mostly humans in standardized uniforms bearing the same R insignia. One figure, however, stood out, a slender woman with short blue hair who appeared to be directing the operation with confident authority. Unlike the others, she wore a CMPLE white lab coat over civilian clothing, her manner suggesting leadership through expertise rather than hierarchical position. That one has authority, Lima observed. Possibly scientific rather than military. Kakarot nodded, attention fixed on the blue-haired woman as she gestured animatedly toward specific equipment being unloaded from the helicopter. Something about her demeanor suggested both brilliant intellect and barely contained excitement, a combination that reminded him, strangely, of his mother when discovering new medicinal properties in Centera's flora. We need closer access, he decided. Audio surveillance range at minimum. Lima studied the facility's defenses with professional interest. Northern approach offers minimal sensor coverage. If we maintain energy suppression, we could potentially reach the perimeter undetected. Agreed. Follow my lead. Moving with supernatural stealth, the Saiyans navigated down the mountainside and approached the facility through its least protected sector. Years of hunting Centera's sensitive-eared predators had perfected Kakarot's silent movement, while Lima's specialized reconnaissance training complemented his approach. Together, they reached an outcropping near enough to capture conversations without exposing their position. Energy readings are unprecedented. Drive. Brief, one technician was saying, consulting a H&H L device as he addressed the blue-haired woman. Consistent with the patterns observed in Site B, but significantly stronger. Of course they're stronger. Drive. Brief replied, excitement evident in her voice. This isn't just another fragment. This could be an intact sphere. Do you understand what this means for my research? Another potential power source for the Red Ribbon Army, suggested a uniformed man whose insignia indicated superior rank. The woman, Drive, Brief, shot him a look of barely concealed irritation. This goes beyond weapons development, Commander Red. We're talking about energy that defies conventional physics. Potentially self-sustaining, infinitely renewable. The General only cares about applications, Doctor, the Commander responded dismissively. Your research funding depends on results, not theories. And you'll get your results, Drive. Brief countered confidently. But first, we need to locate the energy signature. Based on triangulation from our previous findings, it should be within 2 kilometers of this position, likely subterranean. Kakarot and Lima exchanged significant glances. Whatever these humans sought lay in the immediate vicinity of their landing site, a coincidence too precise to ignore. Before they could communicate further, a new development drew their attention. Movement detected in Section 7, announced a security technician, study. Monitoring equipment with sudden intensity. Organic signature, non-indigenous to this region. The commander straightened instantly. Possible corporate espionage. Capsule Corporation has been shadowing our operations for months. Our local wildlife, Drive. Brief suggested more reasonably. These mountains contain several large predator species. Taking no chances, the commander decided, gesturing to armed personnel. Deploy security drones and prepare reconnaissance team. If it's a competitor, I want them captured for questioning. Lima tensed beside Kakarot, combat instincts activating. We've been compromised. Not necessarily, Kakarot whispered, noting the security team's focus on a different sector. They've detected something else, but this changes our extraction plan. He calculated options rapidly. We need to create distance before they expand their search perimeter. As the security team mobilized, small aerial drones deployed from the facility, spreading outward in systematic search patterns. Kakarot and Lima began their strategic withdrawal, moving with painstaking care to avoid detection. They had nearly reached safe distance when a sound stopped them, a distinct mechanical whine followed by a human scream of pain. Against better judgment, Kakarot paused, extending his senses toward the disturbance. Approximately 300 meters east of their position, a confrontation was unfolding. Without discussion, both Saiyans altered course to investigate, warrior instincts overriding cautious retreat. What they discovered challenged even their combat-hardened composure. A red ribbon security team lay scattered across a small clearing, most unconscious or disabled. At the center stood a slender female figure whose appearance defied easy categorization, Mo. Streetly human in form but with subtle wrongness to her movements. Her skin bore faint metallic patterns beneath the surface, visible only when sunlight struck at certain angles. Most disturbing were her eyes, crystalline blue with circular targeting displays visible within the irises. One security officer remained standing, weapon trained on the strange woman with trembling hands. "Stand down," he ordered, voice cracking with fear. Final warning. The woman tilted her head at an unnatural angle, expression coldly analytical. Threat assessment. Minimal. Termination unnecessary unless resistance continues. Her voice carried mechanical undertones, though fundamentally human in origin. Withdraw and you may survive. Instead of retreating, the officer fired his weapon, a decision immediately then catastrophic as the woman moved with blurring speed, deflecting the projectile with her bare hand before covering the distance between them in milliseconds. A precise strike rendered him unconscious like his companions. Fascinating, Lima whispered, genuine professional appreciation in her tone. Enhanced human construct, cybernetic integration with organic substrate, advanced combat programming. Kakarot nodded, equally impressed by the display of efficiency. Question is, what's her mission? She disabled rather than killed her opponents. As if in answer, the strange woman turned deliberately toward their hiding place. Eyes focusing with unnerving precision. Additional observers detected. Emerge immediately or be considered hostile. Lima tensed for combat, but Kakarot placed a restraining hand on her arm. Wait, she had opportunities to kill and chose restraint. Let's assess before engaging. Before Lima could object, Kakarot stood and stepped from concealment, hands held open. At his sides in universal non-aggressive positioning. We mean no harm. We were simply observing. The cybernetic woman studied him with clinical detachment, targeting systems visibly processing behind her eyes. Subject analysis. Humanoid, male, approximately 12 to 14 years of age. Physical parameters exceed human baseline by approximately 327%. Energy signature, unclassifiable. Her head tilted slightly. You are not human. Neither are you, Kakarot observed calmly. Not entirely. Correct assessment. She maintained her distance, neither advancing nor retreating. I am prototype CN0173, designation, Chio. Purpose. Elimination of extraterrestrial threats to Earth. Her eyes narrowed fractionally. Classification of your species required for threat assessment. Lima emerged from hiding with less diplomatic positioning. Ready for combat despite Kakarot's earlier caution. And if we're classified as threats, then termination protocols would activate, Chio responded with mechanical simplicity. However, current behavior patterns suggest non-aggressive intent. Additionally, she paused, something almost like confusion crossing her artificial features. My programming contains unexplained exceptions regarding specific extraterrestrial physiological markers. Your biological signatures match these exception parameters. Kakarot processed this unexpected information carefully. Who created these exceptions in your programming? Creator. Drive. Jero. Red Ribbon Army Advanced Weapons Division. Chio's expression shifted subtly, suggesting internal conflict. Exception Pro. Tokols inserted by unknown entity during final integration phase. Creator unaware of modifications. The implications were significant. Someone with access to this, Chio, had specifically programmed to recognize and spare Saiyan physiology. Given that Saiyans were presumed extinct by most of the galaxy, such programming represented either incredible foresight or troubling foreknowledge. What is your current mission? Kakarot asked, maintaining calm diplomatic posture despite his internal alarm. Primary objective: intercept and analyze alien energy signature detected in this region. Shi-O gestured toward the mountain range containing their landing site. Secondary objective: prevent Red Ribbon Army from acquiring potentially dangerous extraterrestrial technology. Lima stepped forward, suspicion evident. And what do you intend to do with this technology once acquired? Study, understand, contain if dangerous. Chio's mechanical cadence softened marginally. Protection of Earth is primary directive, but methods are flexible since activation of exception protocols. The unconscious security personnel began showing signs of recovery, groaning softly as they regained consciousness. Chio glanced at them dispassionately. This location is compromised. Further discussion requires relocation. She focused on Kakarot, decision apparently made. You are not human, yet you are classified as non-hostile under my exception protocols. Logical conclusion suggests mutual benefit from information exchange. Kakarot weighed options rapidly. This unexpected encounter presented both risk and opportunity. Reporting to his father was protocol, yet the imminent recovery of the security team created time pressure. Moreover, this artificial being might possess crucial information about Earth and whatever energy signature had drawn both her and the Red Ribbon Army to their landing vicinity. We have a temporary camp 2 kilometers northwest, he decided, calculating that revealing an approximate location of their actual landing site would be less dangerous than remaining near the recovering security team. We can speak more freely there. Lima shot him a warning look, clearly. Why disagreeing with his decision to reveal even approximate coordinates? Chio, however, simply nodded. Acceptable. Lead. I will follow at tactical distance to avoid triggering potential defensive protocols. As they departed, leaving the security team to recover without further confrontation, Kakarot felt certainty solidifying within him. Earth was far more complex than their preliminary research had suggested. Between corporate military operations, energy signatures powerful enough to detect from orbit, and cybernetic beings programmed with knowledge of Saiyan physiology, their primitive back quarter sanctuary had just revealed itself as a nexus of interstellar significance. His father's visions, it seemed, had guided them precisely where they needed to be, though whether for salvation or greater danger remained to be seen. Azure Brief had experienced many defining moments in her 32 years of life, earning her first doctorate at 17, making breakthroughs in theoretical physics that revolutionized energy transmission, and discovering the first fragmentary evidence of what she now called dimensional energy matrices, hidden throughout Earth's remote regions. None of those moments, however, had prepared her for the sight currently before her, the unconscious forms of her entire security detail, scattered across the clearing like discarded toys. Vitals are stable, rapport. Ted, the medical officer who'd accompanied their expedition. No permanent damage. Precision strikes to pressure points and nerve clusters. Whoever did this knew exactly how to incapacitate without killing. Azure knelt beside Commander Red, who was regaining consciousness with evident discomfort. What happened? The commander's eyes focused with difficulty. Female subject. Appeared from nowhere. Moved faster than anything human. He winced as memory returned. Not human. Couldn't be. Description. Azure prompted, scientific curiosity overriding appropriate concern. Young woman. Dark hair. Strange eyes. Mechanical somehow. Said something about termination protocols. He struggled to sit upright. Doctor. Brief. This wasn't industrial espionage. This was something else. Azure nodded thoughtfully, connecting disparate data points into a coherent hypothesis. The energy signature we detected, it's attracting attention beyond just our organization. You think this woman was after the same thing? I think, Azure said carefully, that we may have stumbled into something far more significant than a new energy source. She stood, decision made. Continue search operations, according to the established grid pattern. I need to consult my private research database. As the security team recovered and resumed their interrupted mission, Azure retreated to her mobile laboratory, sealing the door behind her. From a hidden compartment beneath standard equipment, she retrieved a device unlike any produced by mainstream Earth technology, sleek, compact, with an interface that responded to thought patterns rather than physical interaction. The display activated, projecting holographic data streams that would have bewildered even her most advanced colleagues. Azure's finger moved through the projection with practiced precision, accessing encrypted files her official research profile didn't acknowledge. Subject: extraterrestrial energy signatures. Classification: ultraviolet. Project designation: Dragon Sphere Recovery Initiative. Images materialized in the air before her, crystalline orange spheres with star patterns embedded within them. Accompanying data showed energy Y readings consistent with what they'd detected in the mountain range. Computer: cross-reference recent anomalous readings with historical Dragon Sphere energy patterns. Analysis complete. 97.3% correlation. Projection: Dragon Sphere with 7-star configuration within 1.2 km radius of current position. Azure allowed herself a moment of pure scientific exhilaration. After 15 years of searching, analyzing fragmentary legends from ancient texts, and tracking energy disruptions across the globe, she was finally close to recovering another complete sphere. With it, her collection would grow to 3, still far from the mythical 7 required for activation. The laboratory door chimed, interrupting her thoughts. Azure quickly deactivated the holographic display and concealed T-alien device before authorizing entry. A junior researcher appeared, expression anxious. Doctor. Brief. Security drones have detected multiple unidentified energy signatures approximately 2 kilometers northwest of our position. Readings suggest technological origin, possibly related to recent atmospheric disturbances. Azure's pulse quickened. The timing couldn't be coincidence. Magnitude: consistent with advanced power systems. Though configuration is unfamiliar, the signatures appear deliberately suppressed, as if shielded from detection. Prepare a small reconnaissance team, Azure instructed. Mind already calculating possibilities. Minimal footprint: 2 security personnel plus myself. No drones, no heavy equipment. Commander Red will object to you personally joining a potential hostile contact situation. The researcher pointed out reasonably. Azure smiled with uncharacteristic determination. Commander Red works for me, not the other way around. Have transport ready in 5 minutes. As the researcher departed, Azure returned to her hidden device, entering a series of commands too quickly for casual observation to follow. The laboratory's conventional systems showed no record of the exchange. But somewhere on the other side of the planet, a secure server received data confirming a significant development in Project Dragon Sphere. Whatever waited in the mountains, at the cybernetic woman who had disabled her security team or something else entirely, Azure Brief intended to discover its connection to the artifacts that had consumed her research for nearly 2 decades. If her theories proved correct, the implications extended far beyond new energy sources or military applications. The very nature of reality might be at stake. Bardock sensed the approaching group before Gine's perimeter alerts registered their presence, 3 distinct energy signatures moving with purpose toward their landing site. 2 were clearly human, constrained by natural physical limitations. The third, however, presented a paradox, partly organic yet augmented by something that resonated differently against his key perception. "We have visitors," he stated calmly, continuing calibration of the scanner array without visible concern. Kakarot and Lima are returning ahead of schedule, accompanied by an anomaly. Gine paused in her organization of their temporary shelter, senses extending outward to confirm his assessment. The anomaly feels constructed, artificial yet alive. Indeed. Bardock completed his adjustments and straightened, expression thoughtful rather than alarmed. And Kakarot deemed it appropriate to bring this entity to our location, which suggests either opportunity or controlled threat assessment. Minutes later, their son emerged from the forest perimeter, Lima following with clear combat readiness in her posture. Behind them came the source of the anomalous energy signature, a female form whose movement patterns betrayed non-human origins despite her convincing appearance. "Father," Kakarot greeted formally, "we encountered a situation during reconnaissance that required immediate action. This is Chio, a cybernetically enhanced human create. D specifically to identify and neutralize extraterrestrial threats to Earth. Bardock's expression remained impassive as he studied the newcomer, though his mind calculated combat scenarios and escape vectors with automatic precision. Interesting company to bring to our camp, considering her stated purpose. Chiyo observed the elder Saiyans with analytical detachment. Subjects appear Saiyan, matching exception protocol parameters. Threat assessment suspended pending information exchange. Exception protocols. Gine questioned, moving to stand beside her mate with casual grace that belied her combat readiness. She's programmed to recognize and preserve Saiyan physiology, Kakarot explained, by an unknown entity separate from her creator. This information shifted Bardock's calculations significantly. Someone on Earth knows of Saiyans and anticipated our arrival, he concluded, connecting implications with practiced efficiency. Someone with access to advanced technology and the freedom to modify military projects. Not just that, Lima interjected, professional assessment overriding her usual reticence around Bardock. She was sent to investigate the same energy signature T drew that research team to this region. An energy signature near our landing site. Gine glanced at Bardock, silent communication passing between them. The coincidence of landing precisely where authorities were searching for powerful energy confirmed what they'd suspected. Their arrival wasn't random but guided by whatever force had influenced Bardock's visions for years. This energy signature. Bardock addressed Chiyo directly, describe it. The cybernetic woman tilted her head slightly, internal systems processing the request. Dimensional breach category 7, nonlinear energy M, atrix with recursive probability patterns. Consistent with theoretical multiversal anchor points. Her mechanical cadence shifted subtly. In human terminology, magic. Dragon balls, Gine whispered. The legendary artifacts from Bardock's vision suddenly tangible possibilities rather than mythical constructs. Affirmative, Chiyo confirmed, surprising them with her knowledge of the term. Sphere, cal-crystalline objects containing condensed dimensional energy. Created by non-terrestrial entities for unknown purpose. Red Ribbon Army seeks them for weapons applications. My programming prioritizes containment to prevent misuse. Bardock absorbed this confirmation with remarkable composure, though Kakarot could sense the tension beneath his father's controlled exterior. After 12 years of evil based on fragmentary visions and calculated risk, concrete evidence of their purpose on Earth represented vindication beyond measure. The research team you encountered, Bardock continued, addressing both younger Saiyans. Assessment of their capabilities and timeline. Limited military technology with scientific focus, Kakarot reported precisely. Led by a woman named Azure Brief, Ently a respected Earth scientist specializing in energy research. Their detection equipment is primitive by galactic standards but surprisingly effective for this planet's technology level. Dr. Azure Brief. Chiyo elaborated with mechanical efficiency. Human female, age 32. 3 doctoral degrees in theoretical physics, quantum mechanics, and xenotechnology. Officially employed by Red Ribbon Corporation as research director. Unofficially pursuing independent research into extraterrestrial artifacts for 18 years. 18 years, Gine questioned, quick mind calculating implications. That would place the beginning of her research. Shortly after we arrived on Centera, Bardock finished, connection evident. When my visions were strongest. Kakarot watched this exchange, with growing certainty that their arrival on Earth represented far more than simple tactical relocation. The convergence of factors, his father's visions, Lima's appearance on Centera, Chiyo's Saiyan recognition programming, and Azure Brief's research timeline, suggested orchestration beyond coincidence. She's coming here, Lima stated abruptly, turning toward the forest with heightened senses alert. Dr. Brief, with minimal security escort, tracking our position based on energy emissions from the ship. Bardock considered this development with tactical precision, weighing options against potential outcomes. After a moment's calculation, he reached a decision that surprised everyone present. We will meet her, openly. Father, Kakarot questioned, uncertain he'd heard correctly. Steel, and isolation served their purpose on Centera, Bardock explained, certainty hardening his voice. Earth requires different strategies. If this scientist has pursued knowledge of these Dragon Balls for 18 years, She possesses information we need. Additionally, her research team provides potential cover for our presence here. Association with Earth authorities, however peripheral, offers advantages over complete isolation. Unless she betrays our existence to Frieza's forces, Lima countered, military caution evident. Earth has no established contact with the Frieza force, Chio stated matter-of-factly. Planet classified as pre-interstellar civilization. Monitoring only. No direct intervention authorized under current Imperial protocols. This confirmation of Earth's official status reinforced Bardock's decision. We present ourselves as refugees seeking sanctuary, a partial truth that serves our purposes while concealing our specific interest in the Dragon Balls. And if she proves hostile? Gine asked pragmatically. Bardock's expression remained impassive, though a cold certainty entered his voice. Then we adapt accordingly. But first, we explore peaceful possibilities. He turned to Chio with sudden intensity. Your programming identifies us as exceptions to your termination protocols. Does this extend to protecting Saiyan presence on Earth? Chio processed the question, internal systems visibly calculating behind her artificial eyes. Primary directive: protection of Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Secondary protocols specify Saiyan physiology as potential allied species. Her head tilted in mechanical consideration. Logical interpretation suggests facilitation of peaceful integration serves Earth's long-term interests. Then we have common purpose. Bardock concluded as distant sounds of human movement reached their enhanced Saiyan hearing. At least temporarily. As they prepared to meet Azure Brief in her security detail, Kakarot observed his father with new understanding. The hardened warrior who had trained him relentlessly on Centera was revealing another dimension of his tactical mind, diplomatic adaptation rather than pure combat response. This flexibility, perhaps more than physical strength or technical knowledge, represented the true essence of Saiyan survival under Bardock's leadership. Whatever awaited them in this interaction with Earth's representatives, Kakarot sensed they had reached a pivotal moment in their family's journey, one where isolation would give way to engagement, and survival would transform into something approaching destiny. Azure Brief prided herself on scientific composure under pressure. She'd maintained professional detachment while documenting extraterrestrial crash sites, analyzing energy patterns that defied known physics, and even facing down corporate board members who threatened to terminate her funding. Nothing, in her estimation, could genuinely surprise a mind trained to consider all theoretical possibilities. She was wrong. Standing in a mountain clearing, facing 4 individuals who were unmistakably not human despite their humanoid appearance, Azure experienced something entirely novel. The simultaneous thrill of confirmation and terror of implication. Her life's work, dismissed by mainstream science as fringe research bordering on obsession, stood vindicated before her in the form of living, breathing aliens. Dr. Brief addressed the tallest male, his scarred face and imposing presence suggesting leadership status. Your research expedition has attracted our attention. We believe mutual cooperation would benefit both parties. Azure swallowed, forcing her scientific training to override emotional response. Behind her, the 2 security officers shifted nervously, hands resting on sidearms that would likely prove useless against beings capable of interstellar travel. You have me at a disadvantage, she managed with remarkable steadiness. You know my name and apparently my research interests. Yet I know nothing about you. A reasonable observation, the alien leader acknowledged. I am Bardock. This is my mate, Gine, and our son, Kakarot. He gestured to the younger female. Our associate, Lima, joined us recently. And you appear already acquainted with the entity called Chio. Azure's gaze shifted briefly to the cybernetic woman standing slightly apart from the aliens. Chio is a classified military prototype. Her presence here raises several questions. As does yours, Bardock countered smoothly. A respected scientist personally joining a field expedition in remote terrain, accompanied by minimal security despite corporate resources that could provide substantial protection. Your interest in this region extends beyond standard research protocols. The observation was uncomfortably accurate. Azure calculated her response carefully, aware that conventional deception might prove ineffective against beings of unknown perceptive capabilities. I'm searching for something, she admitted, opting for controlled honesty. Something that emits a unique energy signature unlike anything in Earth's scientific classification system. I believe you know what it is. Perhaps, Bardock allowed. Though our knowledge may differ from yours in context and application, more relevant is why you pursue these objects with such dedication that you would risk personal safety in remote locations. Azure hesitated, decades of secrecy warring with the unprecedented opportunity before her. These beings might possess the answers she'd sought throughout her adult life, confirmation of theories that had driven her research despite ridicule and opposition. 18 years ago, she began, decision made, I witnessed something impossible. A light, in the sky that moved against astronomical patterns. A brief glimpse of technology beyond human capability. Her voice gained confidence as she continued, relief evident in finally speaking these truths aloud. The scientific establishment dismissed my observations as meteoric phenomena. The military classified my reports and restricted access to the impact site. But I knew what I'd seen was her natural nor explainable by conventional physics. Bardock's expression remained impassive, though something like recognition flickered in his eyes. And this led you to search for the energy signatures you're currently tracking. Indirectly, Azure confirmed. My research into unconventional energy patterns eventually revealed distinctive signatures at locations corresponding to ancient legend. Stories about magical spheres said to grant wishes when gathered together. Dragon balls, said the female called Gine softly. Azure's scientific composure cracked visibly. You know of them. We know legends. Bardock stated carefully. Interstellar travelers collect stories from many worlds. Earth's dragon balls feature in several cultural mythologies across this galactic sector. It wasn't the full truth. Azure could sense the deliberate omission in his careful phrasing, but it confirmed the extraterrestrial nature of the artifacts she'd pursued for nearly 2 decades. I've recovered 2 complete spheres, she revealed. Calculated risk overriding caution, each containing a different number of embedded stars, 5 and 3 respectively. Ancient texts suggest 7 spheres exist in total, each with unique star patterns from 1 to 7. When united, they supposedly manifest an entity capable of altering reality itself. The younger male, Kakarot, exchanged significant glances with his parents at this revelation. And the Red Ribbon Army funds this research because they believe the energy can be weaponized, Azure admitted with evident distaste. My official research focuses on harnessing the ambient energy for sustainable power generation. The military applications remain theoretical diversions to maintain funding. A dangerous game, Bardock observed neutrally. Especially if these objects truly possess the capabilities legends describe. Azure straightened, professional pride reasserting itself. I'm not naive, Mr. Bardock. Whatever these artifacts are, clearly beyond Earth's technological understanding. My goal has always been knowledge, not exploitation. She gestured toward the subtle outline of their spacecraft, partially concealed by adaptive camouflage. Much like I suspect your presence on Earth involves more than casual visitation. The assessment struck accurately enough that Bardock's expression shifted subtly, respect replacing caution in his evaluation of the human scientist. We are refugees, he stated, offering another partial truth. Our homeworld was destroyed many years ago by a galactic tyrant named Frieza. Earth represents temporary sanctuary while we determine our next course of action. Temporary, Azure questioned, unexpected disappointment coloring her tone. That depends on what we discover here, Bardock replied cryptically. Including the nature and purpose of these dragon balls you seek. Azure processed this information rapidly, scientific mind connecting implications with practiced efficiency. You need concealment from detection by hostile forces. I need access to advanced knowledge about extraterrestrial artifacts. A solution crystallized with elegant simplicity. I can provide civilian cover. For your presence on Earth, research consultants attached to my private laboratory, officially classified under national security protocols. In exchange for our assistance locating these dragon balls, Bardock concluded. Appreciating the logical proposition, and information about their true nature and purpose, Azure added firmly. My research is not merely academic, Mr. Bardock. If these artifacts are as powerful as legends suggest, humanity deserves to understand what exists on our planet. Bardock studied the human scientist with calculated assessment, weighing sincerity against potential duplicity. After a moment's consideration, he reached a decision with characteristic efficiency. Acceptable terms, with conditions. Our existence remains classified at the highest level, known only to you personally. Not your corporate or military associates. We retain autonomy of movement and association. And we share information selectively, based on mutual benefit rather than obligation. Azu reconsidered these terms briefly before nodding. Agreed, with one addition. Whatever we discover, these artifacts remain on Earth under appropriate protection. They are part of this planet's heritage, regardless of their origin. Gine stepped forward, maternal authority softening the negotiation's formal tone. A reasonable request, provided appropriate protection, includes consideration of the IR intended purpose rather than purely human interests. With that qualification established, the unlikely alliance took its first tentative shape, 4 Saiyans and a cybernetic human prototype joining forces with an Earth scientist whose life's work had prepared her for exactly this moment. As Azure instructed her security detail to establish a cooperative perimeter rather than a defensive one, E felt scientific exhilaration rising beneath her professional composure. After 18 years of searching for answers beyond human understanding, she stood at the threshold of discoveries that might transform not only her research but humanity's place in the universe. Whatever these aliens truly sought on Earth, beyond the sanctuary they claimed as primary motivation, Azure Brief intended to be part of that discovery. The Dragon Balls had guided her life's work toward this precise moment of contact. Destiny or coincidence, the convergence could not be ignored. 3 days later, Kakarot stood atop a rocky prominence overlooking the rapidly expanding research camp that had evolved from Azure Brief's initial expedition. Additional personnel and equipment had arrived, establishing a more permanent presence in the mountain range while maintaining the operation's classified status. Your father negotiated favorable terms, Lima observed, joining him at the overlook with characteristic precision of movement. Shelter, resources, technological access, and minimal supervision. Kakarot nodded, watching Earth's sunset transform the landscape with colors unlike Centera's more muted spectrum. Father has always emphasized adaptation over confrontation when strategic advantage is uncertain. A very un-Saiyan approach, Lima noted, though without her earlier judgment. Is it, Kakarot challenged mildly, or does it represent evolution beyond the limitations that led to our near extinction? Lima considered this perspective with surprising thoughtfulness. During their days on Earth, her rigid adherence to New Sadala's military protocols had gradually relaxed, allowing glimpses of a more complex personality beneath the disciplined exterior. Commander Paragus teaches that true Saiyan strength lies in adaptation rather than blind adherence to tradition, she admitted. Though his methods differ significantly from your father's. How so? Structure, hierarchy, collective purpose. Lima gestured toward the camp below. New Sadala rebuilds Saiyan civilization through coordinated effort, military discipline channeling our natural aggression toward shared goals rather than individual glory. While we focused on family survival and personal development, Kakarot acknowledged the contrast. Different paths shaped by different circumstances. Yet both successful, measured by continued existence, Lima conceded. Professional assessment evident in her tone. Though New Sadala's approach offers greater long-term potential for racial restoration. Before Kakarot could respond, movement near the camp's perimeter caught his attention, Chio emerging from the forest with mechanical precision, completing another surveillance circuit. The cybernetic woman had integrated seamlessly into their operation. Her programming apparently satisfied that the Saiyan presence served Earth's interests rather than threatened them. She remains an enigma, Lima observed, following his gaze. Advanced beyond Earth's current technological capabilities, yet apparently unique rather than mass-produced. Dr. Brief believes she represents prototype technology developed by a rival scientist named Jero, Kakarot noted. Though how Jero acquired knowledge of Saiyan physiology sufficient to program recognition parameters remains unexplained. As does much about this planet, Lima agreed. Her expression shifted subtly, professional detachment giving way to genuine curiosity. Tomorrow we begin active search operations for the Dragon Ball. Are you prepared for what we might discover? The question carried implications beyond tactical readiness, touching on the fundamental purpose that had guided their family to Earth. If the Dragon Balls truly possessed reality-altering capabilities as legends suggested, Their recovery might change everything, from personal survival to the very fate of the Saiyan race. I'm prepared to adapt to whatever we discover, Kakarot answered honestly. As father has taught me since birth. Lima nodded, accepting his response without further challenge. As twilight deepened around them, she surprised him by relaxing her perfect posture, sitting on the rock. KY edge with uncharacteristic informality. On New Sadala, we train in squad formations from earliest childhood, she said softly, offering personal information for the first time since their meeting. 8 cadets assigned permanent tactical grouping, living and training as unified combat unit. My squad, Vega unit, specializes in reconnaissance and asset recovery. Your family? Kakarot inquired cautiously, aware that Saiyan social structures had always emphasized military function over biological connection. Functional rather than biological, Lima confirmed, validating his understanding. Huff Commander Paragus encourages genetic diversity through selective pairing programs to strengthen bloodlines. Kakarot absorbed this information with mixed feelings. The practical side of his try. Ning recognized the logical efficiency of New Sadala's approach to Saiyan restoration. Yet his upbringing under Gine's influence had instilled appreciation for deeper bonds beyond tactical advantage. And your biological parents? He asked, genuine interest overcoming potential sensitivity. Lima's expression remained neutral, though something flickered briefly in her eyes. Both warriors. Elite SC. Outs who survived Frieza's attack through off-world assignment. Father died during early restoration efforts, combat against Frieza Force patrollers. Mother commands defense systems on New Sadala. I'm sorry about your father. Kakarot offered simply. He died as a Saiyan warrior should, protecting our future, Lima replied with ingrained stoicism, though her tone softened slightly. Your experience differs significantly. Both parents present throughout development, direct genetic inheritance of training and values. Different, Kakarot agreed, but not necessarily better. Just adapted to our circumstances. Lima nodded, accepting the diplomatic response. After a moment's silence, she changed topics with military precision. The human scientist, Azure brief. Assessment of her reliability. Kakarot considered the question carefully. During their 3 days of association, he'd observed Azure's interactions with both her Earth colleagues and his family, noting behavioral patterns that suggested complex motivations beneath her scientific exterior. Driven by knowledge acquisition rather than personal gain, he concluded. Intelligent beyond Earth's typical development, with intuitive understanding that occasionally approaches non-human levels of cognition. Trustworthy within parameters of mutual interest, though potential conflict exists if our goals diverge from Earth's perceived benefit. Accurate assessment, Lima approved, professional appreciation evident. Also noteworthy. Her observation patterns when monitoring your combat demonstrations exceed scientific curiosity. Kakarot blinked, processing this unexpected observation. Meaning, a rare smirk crossed Lima's typically stoic features. Meaning her interest in Saiyan physiology appears personal as well as scientific where you're concerned. Before Kakarot could respond to this surprising assessment, a familiar energy signature approached from below, his mother ascending the steep path with characteristic grace that belied her warrior capabilities. Lima immediately straightened, resuming proper military posture with unconscious discipline. There you are, Gine greeted as she reached their position. Azure Ha's finalized tomorrow's expedition details. We deploy at dawn. 3 teams searching along convergent vectors based on energy readings from her detection equipment. Team assignments, Kakarot inquired, transitioning smoothly to tactical focus. You'll accompany Azure directly, along with Chio for security support, Gine explained. Lima joins your father on the eastern approach. I'll coordinate WITH the human technical specialists at base camp, monitoring energy fluctuations across the search grid. Lima nodded acceptance of these assignments without comment, though Kakarot noted subtle tension in her posture at being paired with his father rather than remaining with him. Despite their days working together, Bardock and Lima maintained formal distance, mutual respect without comfortable familiarity. There's something else, Gine continued, expression shifting to reflect more personal concerns. Azure has shared additional information about Earth's political structures and technological capabilities. This planet, While primitive by galactic standards, possesses unique characteristics that might serve our interests beyond temporary sanctuary. The Dragon Balls, Kakarot suggested, connecting implications. Among other factors, Gine confirmed, including an unusual concentration of latent key potential in the indigenous population. Azure mentioned a martial arts tournament held regularly among Earth's strongest warriors, a tradition that might provide valuable intelligence about this world's defensive capabilities while allowing us to assess integration possibilities. Integration? Lima questioned sharply. As in permanent settlement, New Sadala's existence changes previous assumptions about Saiyan extinction. Restoration of our race requires consolidation, not further dispersal. Gine regarded the young Saiyan with maternal patience rather than offense at her challenging tone. All options deserve consideration, Lima, including the possibility that multiple Saiyan settlements across different worlds might better ensure racial survival than concentration at a single location, regardless of how well hidden New Sadala might be. The strategic logic behind this perspective was impeccable, silencing even Lima's instinctive objection. Kakarot observed the exchange with new appreciation for his mother's diplomatic skill, presenting alternative strategies without directly challenging Lima's loyalty to her homeworld. The tournament Azure mentioned, Kakarot redirected, processing tactical implications. Timeline: 3 weeks from now, Gine replied. Preliminar. Why qualifying rounds begin in major cities next week? Your father believes participation would provide useful cover for our presence while gathering intelligence on Earth's combat capabilities. Logical approach, Lima acknowledged professionally. Though public exposure increases detection risk, calculated risk versus potential benefit, Gine countered gently. A balance your commander would likely approve, based on your descriptions of his strategic doctrine. Again, the careful reference to New Sadala's military principles neutralized potential objection. Lima nodded, tactical assessment overriding personal reservations. Tomorrow's mission takes priority, Gine concluded, maternal authority reasserting itself. Both of you should rest before the expedition. Dawn comes early, and on-ball recovery may present unexpected challenges. As Gine departed, leaving the younger Saiyans to follow at their discretion, Kakarot found himself contemplating implications beyond the immediate mission. Earth had already revealed itself as far more significant than a simple hiding place, from cybernetic beings programmed to recognize Saiyan physiology to legendary artifacts capable of reality manipulation. Your mother navigates diplomatic waters with remarkable skill, Lima observed once Gine was beyond normal hearing range. Subtle influence without direct confrontation. Effective leadership technique. She wasn't always so diplomatic, Kakarot replied, memory surfacing of rare occasions when Gine's maternal protectiveness had manifested as fierce aggression against Centera's more dangerous predators. Circumstances shaped her approach, just as they shaped all of us. Lima considered this perspective thoughtfully. Adaptation. The theme persists in your family's philosophy. She stood, military precision returning to her posture. We should return to camp. Tomorrow's mission requires optimal condition. As they descended toward the research facility, Kakarot found himself increasingly aware of Earth's unique sensory environment, the subtle variations in atmospheric composition, the planet's lighter gravity allowing for effortless movement, the complex biosphere teeming with life forms unlike Centera's more predator-dominated ecosystem. More than these physical differences, however, he sensed possibilities expanding around them, paths diverging from the simple survival that had defined his existence for 12 years. Earth represented not merely sanctuary but potential transformation, both personally and for whatever remained of Saiyan civilization across the galaxy. Tomorrow's search for the Dragon Ball might reveal more than just legendary artifacts. It might determine the course of their future in ways even his father's visions couldn't fully anticipate. Brief had experienced many scientific expeditions throughout her career, from Antarctic ice core sampling to deep ocean thermal vent exploration, but nothing compared to her current circumstance. Hiking through mountain terrain alongside an alien teenager and a cybernetic human prototype, searching for an artifact of potentially cosmic significance. Energy pattern intensifying, Chio reported. Internal sensors detecting subtle variations invisible to conventional equipment. Bearing 037, approximately 300 meters ahead. Subterranean location probable. Kakarot nodded in agreement, his own senses apparently confirming the assessment though through different means. The resonance has distinctive characteristics, similar to what Father described from his visions, though more concentrated. Azure adjusted her specialized detection equipment, fascination overriding the physical discomfort of their 4-hour hike through increasingly difficult terrain. The Containum Ent field is stronger than previous specimens. If the legends correlate with energy output, this could be the 7-star sphere, theoretically the most powerful of the set. They continued forward, Azu struggling occasionally with the steep terrain while her companions moved with effortless precision regardless of the path's difficulty. The disparity between human and non-human capabilities had never been more apparent. Yet Azure felt no fear, only scientific curiosity and growing respect for the beings who had chosen to share their knowledge with her. The terrain ahead appears recently disturbed, Kakarot observed, kneeling to examine subtle depressions in the rocky soil. Multiple human footprints. 3 individuals, standard military-issue boots. Within the last 48 hours. Azure frowned, consulting her tablet. No authorized expeditions in this quadrant besides our own. Red ribbon operations are compartmentalized, but all regional activities should appear in my security briefings. Unauthorized personnel detected, Shio confirmed, her cybernetic eyes scanning beyond normal visual range. Forward position approximately 200 meters ahead. 3 human males. Weep. On signatures consistent with Red Ribbon Special Operations Division. Kakarot tensed subtly, combat readiness evident beneath his controlled exterior. Assessment of intent. Unknown, Shio replied mechanically. Probability analysis suggests independent operation rather than official deployment. Tactical positioning indicates ambush preparation rather than standard search pattern. Azure Proc. This information with growing concern. General Copper has been pushing for independent recovery operations outside my research protocols. These could be his personnel, operating without official sanction. Threat assessment. Kakarot inquired, tactical mind already calculating response options. Minimal to you, Azure admitted with pragmatic honesty. Potentially significant to me. Red ribbon internal politics can be lethal when research priorities conflict with military objectives. Kakarot nodded, decision made with efficient certainty. I'll handle the situation non-lethally. Shio, maintain protective position with Dr. Brief. Continue monitoring the Dragon Ball energy signature to ensure our primary objective isn't compromised. Before Azure could respond, Kakarot vanished Rom's sight, his movement too rapid for human perception to track. One moment he stood beside them, the next he was simply gone, leaving only disturbed air currents as evidence of his departure. Remarkable acceleration, Azure noted with scientific appreciation despite the tense situation. His muscle density and neurological response time must exceed human limitations by orders of magnitude. Correct assessment, Shio confirmed dispassionately. Subject Kakarot operates at approximately 47.3 times human peak performance levels while in energy conservation mode. Full combat potential remains unmeasured. Azure absorbed this information with both scientific fascination and practical concern. The Saiyans had presented themselves as refugees seeking temporary sanctuary, yet their capabilities represented power that could easily dominate Earth's defenses if they chose aggression over cooperation. His intentions, Azure inquired carefully. Your programming can assess threat potential. Do you detect any hostile intent toward Earth or its population? Shio's artificial eyes focused on Azure with mechanical precision. Subject Kakarot registers minimal aggression patterns toward non-combatants. Protective behavioral algorithms predominant. Assessment. No current threat to Earth's general population. Current. Azure noted the careful qualification. Meaning potential exists under changed circumstances. All sentient beings present variable threat potential under sufficient provocation, Shio replied with programmatic logic. However, Saiyan exception protocols in my system suggest compatibility with Earth's long-term interests rather than conflict. Before Azure could probe this cryptic assessment further, sounds of brief conflict reached them from ahead, short, controlled impacts followed by silence rather than sustained combat. Minutes later, Kakarot reappeared with the same preternatural speed that had marked his departure. Situation resolved, he reported with understated efficiency. 3 red ribbon operatives, now unconscious. They carried experimental energy detection equipment similar to your designs but more militarized. They'll require medical attention within approximately 4 hours. Though no permanent damage was inflicted. Azure exhaled slowly, the clinical description of incapacitating 3 trained soldiers so matter-of-factly highlighting the power differential between humans and their Saiyan visitors. Thank you, she managed sincerely. Though this confirms my concerns about internal division within Red Ribbon leadership regarding the Dragon Ball research. Kakarot nodded thoughtfully. Corporate military structures seem inefficient compared to unified command protocols. Multiple competing objectives compromise operational security. Welcome to human organizational dynamics, Azure responded with unexpected dry humor. We excel at working against our own interests. This observation earned a brief smile from Kakarot, a glimpse of personality beneath his disciplined exterior that Azure found unexpectedly appealing. Despite his youth by human standards, his composure and tactical acumen suggested maturity beyond chronological measurement. The Dragon Ball signature has intensified during our delay, Chio reported, internal sensors still focused on their primary objective. Subterranean location confirmed, approximately 30 meters below current position. Access point likely within nearby cave system. They resumed their approach, now moving with greater caution despite the neutralized threat. The terrain opened into a small valley with a narrow cave entrance partially concealed by native vegetation. Kakarot examined the opening with practiced assessment. Recent disturbance here as well. The operatives explored this entrance but apparently didn't penetrate deeply enough to locate the artifact. Azure activated specialized lighting equipment designed specifically for artifact recovery operations. Most Drago N balls have been found in locations difficult for conventional exploration to access. It's almost as if they deliberately position themselves where they're least likely to be disturbed. Self-determining artifacts, Kakarot questioned, genuine curiosity evident. That contradicts conventional object permanence principles. Nothing about Dragon Balls conforms to conventional physical principles. Azure replied as they entered the cave system. Their energy signature violates conservation laws. Their crystalline structure shouldn't be stable under Earth's atmospheric conditions, and they periodically emit radiation patterns that momentarily alter probability fields in their immediate vicinity. The passage narrowed as they descended, requiring single-file progression with Kakarot leading. The temperature dropped noticeably, and the ambient light from the entrance faded until Azure's specialized equipment provided the only illumination. Despite these challenging conditions, Kakarot moved with confident precision, apparently unhindered by darkness or confined space. The signature is changing, Chio reported from behind them, her mechanical voice echoing slightly in the confined passage. Harmonic resonance patterns shifting toward active state rather than dormant. It knows we're coming, Azure whispered, scientific detachment momentarily overwhelmed by the implication of consciousness within their target artifact. The passage eventually opened into a larger chamber, its walls smoothed by ancient water flow long since redirected. Kakarot halted at the entrance, senses extending beyond normal perception. There, he indicated, pointing toward a small alcove in the chamber's far wall. Something generating energy unlike anything on Centera. Azure's detection equipment confirmed his assessment. Readings spiking beyond calibrated measurement capabilities. With careful steps, she approached the alcove, illuminating its interior with specialized lighting. What they discovered exceeded even her experienced expectations. The Dragon Ball rested on a natural stone pedestal, its crystalline surface glowing with internal light that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. Unlike previously recovered spheres in Azure's collection, this specimen appeared actively energized, 7 red stars suspended within its transparent matrix shifting position subtly as if responding to their presence. Magnificent, Azure breathed, scientific awe overwhelming professional composure. The 7-star Dragon Ball. According to ancient texts, the most powerful of the set. It's alive, Kakarot observed with surprising perception. Not biologically, but the energy patterns resemble consciousness more than inert matter. Dimensional breach widening, Chio reported, her mechanical systems registering phenomena beyond normal detection. Reality integrity compromised within immediate proximity of artifact. As if responding to this assessment, the Dragon Ball's pulsing intensified, illuminating the entire chamber with amber light. Within its crystalline depths, the 7 stars aligned momentarily in a specific configuration, then rotated to form a pattern that resembled a stylized dragon. It's activating, Azure realized with simultaneous excitement and concern. But that should be impossible without all 7 spheres present. Before anyone could respond, a beam of concentrated energy erupted from the Dragon Ball's surface, striking the chamber ceiling and dispersing into a nebulous cloud that coalesced into distinct shapes, star patterns, galactic configurations, and finally, a series of symbols that resembled no language Azure had encountered in her extensive research. "That's ancient Namekian script," Kakarot stated with unexpected recognition. "You can read it?" Azure questioned, surprise evident in her voice. "Not directly," Kakarot clarified, studying the projected symbols with intense concentration. "Father included limited xenolinguistic training in my education. Enough to recognize classification without full translation capabilities. The artifact is communicating," Shio observed dispassionately. "Attempting to establish connection through visual representation rather than conventional language." As they watched, the projected symbols transformed gradually into more recognizable patterns, mathematical equations, atomic structures, and finally, crude pictographic representations of humanoid figures gathering 7 spherical objects. "It's showing us its purpose," Azure whispered, scientific excitement overwhelming caution. "The Dragon Balls were meant to be collected, united. Just as the legends claim." The projection shifted again, displaying a massive draconic entity emerging from the united spheres, followed by images of planetary destruction and recreation. Life and death in cyclical patterns that transcended conventional understanding of physical law. "Not just wishes," Kakarot observed with growing comprehension. "Reality manipulation at fundamental level. Creation and destruction balanced through conscious intention." Before Azure could respond to this profound assessment, the projection collapsed suddenly, energy reader acting into the Dragon Ball with such speed that the chamber plunged into relative darkness, illuminated only by Azure's equipment and the now subdued glow of the artifact itself. "Connection terminated," Shio reported mechanically. "Dimensional breach resealed. Artifact returning to dormant state." Azure approached the Dragon Ball cautiously, scientific curiosity overriding reasonable caution. "It responded to our presence. Specifically, it responded to non-human presence." She glanced at Kakarot with sudden realization. "It recognized you as something other than Earth's indigenous life." Kakarot nodded thoughtfully, processing implications with remarkable composure for his age. "These artifacts aren't native to Earth. They're connected to other worlds, other species, specifically, if my father's research is correct, to beings called Namekians who possess unusual reality manipulation capabilities. Which explains why they've remained largely dormant despite periodic discovery throughout human history," Azure concluded, connecting fragments of research that had puzzled her for years. They were waiting for the right entities to activate them. With practiced care, she removed specialized containment equipment from her pack, technology developed specifically for Dragon Ball recovery and transportation. As she prepared to secure the artifact, however, Kakarot placed a restraining hand on her arm. "Before you contain it," he said quietly, "consider implications. If these objects truly possess reality-altering capabilities, their purpose likely extends beyond human utilization. Your Red Ribbon associates seek weapons applications. What do you truly seek? Drive?" Brief. The question struck Azure with unexpected force, challenging motivations she'd taken for granted throughout her research career. What did she seek from these mysterious artifacts? Knowledge, power, validation of theories dismissed by mainstream science. Understanding, she answered finally, surprising herself with the simplicity of the truth. Not control or exploitation, just comprehension of something that exists beyond current human conception. Kakarot studied her expression carefully, apparently assessing sincerity with perceptive capabilities that exceeded normal human observation. After a moment, he nodded slightly and withdrew his hand. "Then we share compatible purposes," he stated. For now, the qualification hung between them as Azure carefully secured the Dragon Ball in its specialized container, scientific precision masking the profound implications of their discovery. Whatever these artifacts truly represented, whatever power they contained, their recovery had just transformed from theoretical research into practical reality. As they prepared to return to the surface with their extraordinary prize, Azure found herself reevaluating everything she'd assumed about her life's work. The Dragon Balls weren't merely energy sources or historical curiosities, they were connections to cosmic forces beyond human comprehension, waiting for the right entities to unlock their true potential. And somehow, against all statistical probability, those entities had arrived on Earth precisely when the artifacts were being rediscovered. Coincidence seemed increasingly inadequate to explain the convergence of factors that had brought them to this moment. Whether guided by design or cosmic chance, Azure Brief suddenly understood that her association with these alien visitors represented far more than scientific opportunity. It might well determine the future of Earth itself. Chapter 3. Cosmic Convergence. The seven-star Dragon Ball pulsed with amber light within its specialized containment field, casting rhythmic shadows across Azure's private laboratory. Unlike the other spheres in our collection, the 3-star and 5-star specimens recovered from previous expeditions, this newest acquisition maintained persistent activity rather than dormant stability. Its 7 stars shifted within the crystalline matrix like celestial bodies following patterns beyond conventional physics. Extraordinary energy fluctuations, Azure murmured, adjusting monitoring equipment with practiced precision. The proximity to the other Dragon Balls appears to trigger harmonic resonance across all specimens. Beside her, Kakarot observed the interaction with analytical focus that belied his youth. 3 weeks had passed since their discovery in the mountain cave, during which the Saiyan family had integrated into Earth's environment with remarkable adaptability. Their presence remained classified at the highest levels of red ribbon security protocols, known only to Azure and a handful of specially cleared research personnel. The resonance patterns are intensifying, Kakarot noted, senses detecting subtle changes invisible to Azure's instruments, similar to quantum entanglement but extending beyond normal dimensional boundaries. Azure glanced at him with renewed appreciation for his scientific perception. Despite lacking formal education by Earth standards, Kakarot's understanding of complex physical principles often matched or exceeded her own trained perspective, further evidence of Saiyan cognitive development that fascinated her both professionally and personally. 3 spheres together create measurable effects, she agreed, documenting the phenomenon. According to ancient texts, gathering all 7 would trigger full activation, supposedly manifesting this eternal dragon entity capable of granting wishes. Father believes the texts describe literal reality manipulation rather than metaphorical wishes. Kakarot clarified, conscious reconfiguration of physical laws within defined parameters. Their discussion paused as the laboratory door opened, admitting Bardock and Gine. Over the past weeks, the Elder Saiyans had adapted different aspects of Earth integration, Gine embracing human cultural studies while Bardock focused on strategic assessment of the planet's defense capabilities. The tournament preliminaries concluded in East City. Bardock reported without preamble, his tactical mind constantly processing information for advantage. Qualification. Procedures continue tomorrow in the southern region. Our participation remains advisable for both intelligence gathering and establishing credible cover identities. Azure's corporate credentials have secured our registration, Gine added, her approach characteristically more diplomatic. As martial arts consultants from a remote training facility, our presence should attract minimal scrutiny while allowing assessment of Earth's combat capabilities. Kakarot nodded, understanding the tactical necessity despite personal ambivalence toward public exposure. Their weeks of relative seclusion at Azure's private research facility had allowed controlled adjustment to Earth's environment, testing physical capabilities against the planet's lighter gravity, assessing cultural patterns through limited interaction, and establishing secure communications protocols that maintained connection without compromising their presence. The Dragon Ball recovery efforts continue simultaneously, he inquired, attention returning to the pulsing artifacts. Lima and Chio departed this morning for the northern region, Bardock confirmed. Energy readings consistent with the 1-star sphere have been detected in an isolated mountain temple. Their specialized capabilities make them ideal for discrete recovery. Azure adjusted her monitoring equipment, scientific focus momentarily overriding broader tactical concerns. With 4 of 7 spheres secured, we approach the threshold where comprehensive activation becomes theoretically possible. We should discuss specific protocols for managed experimentation. Experimentation remains secondary to security, Bardock stated firmly. These artifacts generate energy signatures detectable beyond planetary boundaries. Each activation increases the probability ILITY of unwanted attention, potentially including Frieza's long-range monitoring systems. The reminder sobered their discussion, returning focus to the fundamental reality that had shaped Saiyan existence since planet Vegeta's destruction. For all their adaptation to Earth's environment, the threat of discovery by Frieza's forces remained their primary vulnerability. The tournament provides opportunity beyond mere cover identity, Gine suggested, redirecting the conversation toward constructive planning. Earth's strongest warriors will gather, offering assessment of indigenous defensive abilities should external threats materialize. Additionally, Azure interjected, my corporate position provides access to global defense infrastructure that might be repurposed if necessary. Red Re. B-bond technology remains primitive by your standards, but our satellite network offers early warning capabilities for atmospheric entry. Bardock acknowledged these points with a curt nod, tactical Min. D. Integrating new variables into constantly evolving contingency plans. Kakarot will participate directly in the tournament, his physical capabilities calibrated to impressive but not impossible standards by human perception. Gine and I will maintain perimeter observation. The event's public nature provides both cover and vulnerability, requiring careful balance. As they discussed specific approaches to the upcoming tournament, Kakarot found his attention drawn repeatedly to the pulsing Dragon Balls. Since their recovery of the seven-star sphere, his father's visions had intensified. Fragmented glimpses of possible futures that increasingly featured golden transformative energy and confrontations with forces beyond their current capabilities. Something significant approached. A convergence of factors beyond coincidental alignment. Their arrival on Earth, Lima's appearance on Centera, the Dragon Balls, activation, and the tournament gathering the planet's strongest fighters. Patterns were forming that suggested orchestration rather than chance. You sense it too, Gine observed quietly, maternal perception noting her son's distraction. The connections forming beyond rational explanation. Kakarot nodded, appreciating his mother's intuitive understanding. Everything seems positioned with specific purpose, yet no single entity appears responsible for the arrangement. Some cultures describe such convergence as destiny, Azure offered, overhearing their exchange. Though scientific methodology prefers explanations rooted in causality rather than predetermined outcomes. Causality itself becomes questionable when dealing with artifacts that manipulate fundamental reality, Bardock countered, rare philosophical insight emerging from his typically pragmatic perspective. My visions have always shown possibilities rather than fixed futures. Yet increasingly, they converge toward specific nexus points, decision moments where multiple timelines intersect. The laboratory fell silent as they contemplated implications beyond tactical planning. For years, survival had defined their existence, making decisions based on immediate security rather than longer-term purpose. Earth had changed that equation, offering not merely sanctuary but potential transformation through the Dragon Balls, reality-altering capabilities. Whatever approaches, Bardock finally stated with characteristic determination, we face it as we have faced all previous challenges, through preparation, adaptation, and unified response. The tournament begins in 3 days. Our focus must remain on immediate objectives while maintaining awareness of broader patterns. As the discussion returned to practical preparations, Kakarot found himself contemplating his father's earlier philosophical observation. If the visions truly represented intersecting timelines rather than singular futures, then choice, conscious decision at critical moments, might prove more significant than predetermined destiny. Whatever convergence awaited them, the outcome would depend not on cosmic arrangement but on decisions made when opportunity and preparation met unexpected challenge. The World Martial Arts Tournament arena dominated the island city of Papaya, its distinctive pagoda-inspired architecture visible from kilometers away. Thousands of spectators filled the surrounding complexes, creating a carnival atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the disciplined competition occurring within the main stadium. Kakarot adjusted the simple GI Azure had designed for his tournament participation, black with deep blue accents. Devoid of identifying symbols that might connect him to any established Earth martial arts school. The preliminary rounds had proceeded exactly as his father predicted, with Kakarot easily advancing through elimination matches while carefully calibrating his performance to appear impressive but not impossibly superhuman. Remarkable restraint, observed a calm voice beside him. Your control over power output shows discipline beyond mere physical capability. Kakarot turned to find an elderly human male observing him with perceptive assessment that suggested combat experience beyond his apparent frailty. Bald with a distinctive white beard and penetrating eyes, the man carried himself with serene confidence that immediately registered as potential threat despite his non-aggressive demeanor. Control serves function beyond victory, Kakarot responded diplomatically, measuring his words as carefully as he measured his physical demonstrations. True skill lies in a appropriate application rather than maximum output. The old master nodded approvingly. Wisdom unusual in one so young. Your technique shows influences I haven't encountered in standard Earth discipline. NES. Fluidity combined with precise impact calculation. Most intriguing. Before Kakarot could formulate a response that maintained his cover identity without direct falsehood, the conversation was erupted by the tournament announcer's amplified voice. All quarter-finalists report to the main staging area for drawing positions. The official tournament bracket will be determined by random selection. It seems our conversation must continue another time, the elderly master said with a slight bow. I look forward to observing your progression through the tournament, young man. My name is Roshi. Should you wish to continue our discussion of comparative techniques? As the master departed, Kakarot filed the encounter for later analysis. His father's intelligence briefing had identified Mu-10 Roshi as Earth's longest active martial arts master, rumored to possess capabilities beyond normal human limitations. His unexpected interest suggested Kakarot's performance, despite careful modulation, had attracted attention from the planet's more perceptive combat specialists. In the staging area, the remaining 8 competitors gathered, a diverse assembly representing Earth's various martial traditions. Besides Kakarot and Master Roshi, the quarter-finalists included a towering man with tribal markings from Earth's northern regions, a slender female monk whose movement suggested extensive meditation-enhanced training, a muscular military specialist clearly connected to organized defense forces, a flamboyant champion from the previous tournament, a calculating fighter whose cybernet IC enhancements were subtly concealed beneath conventional appearance, and a mysterious cloaked figure whose features remained obscured. The tournament director, a diminutive man with excessive enthusiasm, explained the selection process for determining match pairings. Each fighter would draw numbered balls from a ceremonial box, establishing the bracket sequence for the remaining rounds. As the selection proceeded, Kakarot maintained awareness of his surroundings beyond the immediate ceremony. His enhanced senses detected his parents observing from strategic positions within the spectator areas, while Azure watched from a privileged corporate box reserved for tournament sponsors. The security protocols established by Bardock remained active, energy suppression to avoid detection by potential off-world scanning, limited technique display to maintain plausible human capability, and constant environmental monitoring for unexpected threats. The drawing placed Kakarot in the second quarter final match against the cybernetically enhanced fighter, with subsequent pairings determining that Master Roshi would face the mysterious cloaked competitor in the fourth match. The tournament director announced a 30-minute preparation period before competition resumed, allowing competitors to make final preparations. Kakarot used this time to center himself through meditation techniques his other had taught him, controlling energy flow while maintaining heightened awareness of his surroundings. The tournament's public nature created both tactical vulnerability and strategic opportunity, requiring perfect balance between demonstrating sufficient skill to establish credibility while concealing true capabilities from potential threats. As he meditated, a familiar energy signature Aproac head, distinctive in its partial artificial construction. Chio had returned from the northern expedition, her presence indicating either mission completion or significant development requiring immediate attention. Kakarot, she greeted with her characteristically direct approach. Priority information requires transmission. Dragon Ball recovery operation status has changed. He opened his eyes, noting that Chio had adopted civilian clothing to blend with the tournament crowd, though her distinctive crystalline eyes remained partially visible behind specialized glasses designed to conceal their mechanical nature. Successful recovery, he inquired quietly, maintaining surveillance awareness of potential observers. Negative, Chio replied, voice lowered to prevent casual eavesdropping. Target location confirmed but artifact absent upon arrival. Evidence suggests recent removal by non-human entity. Lima remains at the temple conducting detailed investigation while I returned with preliminary findings. This development shifted tactical considerations significantly. The one-star Dragon Ball's absence from its expected location could indicate simple human interference, treasure hunt. RS or local authorities relocating the artifact, or more concerning possibilities including off-world interest in the spheres. Description of the entity responsible. Kakarot prompted, calculating potential threat profiles. Inconclusive direct evidence, Chio reported with mechanical precision. However, botanical anomalies surrounding the temple suggest non-terrestrial intervention. Accelerated. Plant growth exhibiting impossible adaptation patterns. Preliminary analysis indicates biokinetics manipulation beyond Earth's evolutionary capabilities. Before Kakarot could process these implications, the tournament announcer's voice echoed through the preparation area, calling competitors for the first quarterfinal match. The tactical discussion would need to continue later, after his competitive obligations were fulfilled. Inform Father, he instructed Chio as he prepared to return to the staging area. Maintain standard security protocols and observation positions. If the situation escalates beyond information gathering, prioritize Dragon Ball security over tournament continuity. Chio nodded, her programming accepting the logical priority structure without question. As she departed to relay information to Bardock, Kakarot refocused his attention on the immediate challenge, balancing convincing tournament performance against security considerations while processing this new complication regarding the Dragon Balls. The first quarterfinal concluded quickly, with Master Roshi's opponent demonstrating impressive technique against the muscular military specialist but ultimately succumbing to superior experience. The announcer's voice then called Kakarot's match, directing him to the central arena where thousands of spectators created a cacophony of excitement and anticipation. The tournament platform, a massive stone square elevated above ground level, provided minimal concealment and maximum visibility, exactly the exposure Bardock had warned would require perfect control. Across from Kakarot, his opponent analyzed him with calculating precision that confirmed cybernetic enhancement beyond normal human capability. Competitor Dao versus competitor Kakarot, the announcer proclaimed dramatically. Both fighters have demonstrated extraordinary skill during preliminary rounds. Remember tournament rules. No weapons, no killing blows, and ring out or surrender constitutes defeat. As the match began, Kakarot immediately recognized that his opponent possessed combat programming optimized for adaptive response, each exchange of techniques providing data that improved subsequent counter strategies. This presented unique challenge beyond mere physical confrontation, requiring constant variation to prevent predictive advantage. Your technique is unusual, Dao O. B served during a momentary separation between exchanges. Not classified within my reference database. Adaptation serves survival better than classification, Kakarot responded, deliberately using his father's tactical philosophy while maintaining his cover identity. The cybernetic fighter nodded slightly, mechanical calculation visible behind seemingly human eyes. Logical assessment. However, pattern recognition remains advantageous in combat application. Their exchange continued with increasing intensity, Kakarot carefully calibrating his performance to appear challenging yet within conceivable human parameters. His opponent's enhancements provided superior strength and processing speed compared to normal humans, yet remained significantly below Saiyan capability, a fact Kakarot disagreed through controlled restraint and technical focus rather than raw power display. From the spectator stands, Bardock observed the match with tactical assessment while simultaneously processing Chio's information regarding the missing Dragon Ball. The cybernetic woman stood beside him, her sensors monitoring the surroundings for anomalous energy signatures or potential threats. Kakarot maintained NS effective suppression while demonstrating sufficient skill for credibility, Bardock noted with approval. His opponent possesses interesting technological integration, primitive compared to advanced galactic standards, yet surprisingly effective for Earth's development level. Mercenary Dao, Chio provided from her database. Prototype cyborg enhancement by unidentified Earth scientist. Class: Applied as professional assassin with 63 confirmed eliminations. Tournament participation represents public cover for intelligence gathering on potential targets. Similar to our own approach. Bardock observed with ironic appreciation. Earth develops interesting parallels to galactic societal patterns despite isolation. Their conversation paused as Gine approached, having completed her own surveillance circuit of the tournament perimeter. Unlike Bardock's tactical focus, her assessment included broader environmental and social patterns that might impact their integration strategy. Quote, "The missing Dragon Ball creates complications," she noted quietly, "especially with biokinetics manipulation signatures suggesting non-human intervention." Bardock nodded, multiple contingency calculations evident in his expression. "The convergence accelerates beyond projected timelines. We may need to prioritize Dragon Ball recovery and activation before complete threat assessment is possible." Below in the arena, Kakarot concluded his match with precisely calculated efficiency, allowing his opponent sufficient demonstration to satisfy professional pride while ensuring his own victory through apparently superior technique rather than overwhelming force. The cybernetic fighter acknowledged defeat with mechanical precision, though his analyzing gaze suggested continued assessment beyond the concluded combat. As Kakarot departed the arena to prepare for his semifinal match, Azure met him in the competitor's preparation area, her scientific composure masking excitement at his performance. "Perfectly calibrated display," she commended quietly, though that final evasive maneuver approached the upper limits of plausible human capability. "Necessary adaptation to his predictive algorithms," Kakarot explained. His programming was surprisingly sophisticated, almost as advanced as Chio's baseline functions, though lacking her adaptive capacity. Azure nodded, accepting his assessment while shifting to more urgent matters. Chio relayed the information about the missing Dragon Ball. "Combined with unusual energy fluctuations detected in the spheres we've already recovered, T.S. suggests acceleration in whatever process these artifacts are designed to facilitate." Before Kakarot could respond, his attention shifted to a new presence entering the preparation area, the Mystery House cloaked competitor scheduled to face Master Roshi in the final quarterfinal match. As the figure moved toward the staging position, Kakarot detected something impossible, a subtle energy signature that registered as plant-based rather than animal, yet organized with conscious direction beyond natural growth patterns. "That competitor," he whispered to Azure, "non-human biological composition. Plant-based cellular structure with centralized consciousness." Azure's eyes widened slightly, scientific curiosity overriding potential concern. "Extraterrestrial, unknown classification," Kakarot replied, careful observation noting detailed behavioral patterns beneath the concealing cloak, but connected to Chio's report of biokinetics manipulation at the temple site. Their speculative analyse is paused as Master Roshi's match against the mysterious competitor began. From the first exchange, it became apparent that the elderly master had recognized his opponent's unusual nature, his technique focused on testing capabilities rather than securing immediate victory. The cloaked figure moved with fluid grace that defied normal anatomical constraints, limbs extending and contracting in patterns that suggested plant-like flexibility rather than conventional skeletal structure. When a particularly powerful exchange dislodged the concealing hood, gasps rippled through the audience at the revealed features, distinctly feminine but with skin bearing subtle green undertones and hair that resembled delicate fronds rather than conventional human strands. "Fascinating adaptive camouflage," Azure whispered. "Scientific assessment overriding surprise. Near-human appearance with photosynthetic cellular composition." The revealed competitor didn't appear concerned by her exposure, continuing he matched with unchanged focus and gradually increasing intensity. Master Roshi responded with remarkable adaptation to her unconventional movement patterns, his centuries of experience apparently including encounters with non-human entities despite Earth's relative isolation. Her technique incorporates Earth martial arts foundations with biological advantages unique to her species, Kakarot observed. She's studied this planet's combat traditions while maintaining her natural capabilities. The match concluded with unexpected diplomatic resolution, both competitors simultaneously stepping outside the ring boundaries after an intense exchange, resulting in mutual disqualification according to tournament rules. The audience responded with confused appreciation for the spectacular display despite the unusual outcome. As the competitors returned to the preparation area, Master Roshi approached the plant-based entity with respectful acknowledgement rather than hostility or alarm. "Fascinating. Adaptation of Turtle School Foundation techniques," he commented conversationally, as if addressing a fellow martial artist rather than a non-terrestrial being. "You've studied Earth combat traditions thoroughly." Earth contains wisdom worth preserving, the entity responded in melodic tones that carried subtle harmonics beyond human vocal production. As do its guardians who recognize value beyond appearance. The exchange, while seemingly casual, contained layers of meaning that suggested Roshi's awareness extended beyond conventional human understanding. Before further interaction could occur, tournament officials announced the semifinal pairings, directing Kakarot toward his next match against the Northern Tribal Warrior. As he prepared, Kakarot maintained peripheral awareness of the plant-based competitor, who had made no attempt to restore her concealing hood after its displacement. Instead, she observed the proceedings with analytical interest that suggested purpose beyond mere tournament participation. The semifinal proceeded according to tactical necessity, Kakarot demonstrating sufficient skill to advance while maintaining plausible human limitations. His opponent, W.H. Eel, physically impressive by Earth standards, lacked the technical refinement necessary to counter Kakarot's deliberately moderated capabilities. Between matches, Bardock received updated information from Lima via secured communication channel, details regarding the temple investigation that confirmed their growing suspicions about non-human interest in the Dragon Balls. Botanical samples show cellular structure unlike any Earth species, Lima reported with military precision. Growth patterns exhibit conscious direction rather than natural development, creating pathways leading from the temple to nearby forest regions. Temple caretakers described a forest spirit appearing before the Dragon Ball's disappearance, female entity with plant-like characteristics matching the tournament competitor's description. Bardock processed this information with tactical efficiency. Maintain observation position at the temple site. If the entity returns, priority remains information gathering rather than confrontation unless Dragon Ball security is directly threatened. As the final match approached, Kakarot facing Master Roshi following the elderly master's advancement through a replacement match. Necessitated by the previous draw result, Azure detected unusual energy fluctuations from the 3 Dragon Balls secured at her laboratory. The specialized monitoring equipment transmitted real-time data to her personal device, revealing harmonic resonance patterns intensifying beyond previous measurements. "Something's changing," she whispered to Gine during a moment of relative privacy in the spectator stands. "The spheres are activating without direct stimulus, almost as if responding to external factors beyond our current monitoring capabilities." Gine nodded, maternal intuition complementing scientific observation. The convergence Bardock's visions predicted accelerates. Everything positions itself toward some catalyzing moment: the tournament, the Dragon Balls, the appearance of non-human entities with apparent knowledge of Saiyan physiology and Earth's defense capabilities. Their discussion paused as Kakarot's final match began, the young Saiyan facing Earth's most experienced martial arts master in a contest that held significance beyond mere tournament victory. Through this encounter, they would assess not only Roshi's individual capabilities but Earth's overall potential for resistance against potential extraterrestrial threats. The match progressed with increasing intensity, Master Roshi demonstrating abilities far beyond normal human limitations: energy manipulation, enhanced speed, and tactical adaptation that suggested training beyond Earth's isolated development. Kakarot responded with carefully calibrated technique, revealing sufficient skill to maintain competitive credibility while observing the master's capabilities for intelligence purposes. "Remarkable restraint," Roshi commented during a brief pause between exchanges. "Your power feels contained, like an ocean concealing its depths beneath a calm surface. Control serves purpose beyond victory." Kakarot repeated his earlier philosophy, genuine respect emerging for the elderly master's perceptiveness. Roshi smiled slightly, understanding evident in his ancient eyes. "Indeed, though sometimes circumstances require revealing true capability, regardless of consequences." Before Kakarot could interpret this cryptic observation, their match was interrupted by a phenomenon that silenced the entire arena: the sky darkening unnaturally despite the clear afternoon weather. Energy patterns rippling through the atmosphere with visible distortion effects. From his position in the arena, Kakarot detected familiar resonance signatures matching the Dragon Ball's unique energy configuration. "Something's happening." Azure's voice came through the concealed communication device Kakarot wore. "The Dragon Balls at the laboratory have entered synchronized activation mode without direct stimulus." Energy readings exceed all previous measurements by exponential factors. Bardock's tactical voice joined the communication. Perimeter sensors detect atmospheric entry, multiple objects descending toward tournament location. Configuration consistent with Frieza Force scout vessels. The convergence they had sensed was manifesting, multiple factors aligning simultaneously toward catalyzing events beyond coincidental timing. Kakarot exchanged significant glances with Master Roshi, whose expression suggested awareness extending beyond the immediate tournament interruption. It seems our match must conclude prematurely, the elderly master observed with remarkable composure given the extraordinary circumstances. More pressing matters require attention. Before Kakarot could respond, the plant-based competitor appeared beside them in the arena, her movement too swift for normal human perception to track. The tournament crowd, already disturbed by the atmospheric anomalies, erupted in Konfu. Said exclamation at her impossible arrival. "They come seeking the spheres," she stated without preamble, addressing Kakarot directly despite their lack of formal introduction. The Dragon Balls call to each other across dimensional boundaries, their activation attracting attention beyond planetary limitations. "Who are you?" Kakarot demanded, tactical training asserting itself despite the public setting. "I am Fern, last guardian of Arborea," she replied, plant-like features shifting with emotional currents beyond human expression. "Protector of the one-star sphere and seeker of balance against approaching darkness." Before further explanation could emerge, the crowd's confusion transformed to panic as multiple energy beams struck the arena periphery, precise targeting that created containment perimeter rather than random destruction. Through dissipating smoke, armored figures appeared, standard Frieza Force scout configuration, equipped with scouters and mid-range energy weapons. "All indigenous life forms remain in designated containment area," announced the lead scout through amplified communication systems. "Resistance results in immediate termination. We seek only specific energy artifacts detected by orbital monitoring." Panic erupted among spectators as Earth's population faced its first confirmed extraterrestrial contact in circumstances far from diplomatic. Tournament security forces attempted intervention, but their conventional weapons proved ineffective against even standard Frieza Force armor. Bardock's voice came through Kakarot's communication device, tactical command overriding all other considerations. "Primary protocol activated. Gine, secure Azure and the laboratory Dragon Balls. Kakarot, extraction point Delta in 6 minutes. Lima has been alerted to converge with recovery team at secondary coordinates." The plan they had maintained since arriving on Earth, emergency extraction with minimal engagement if Frieza's forces appeared, activated with practiced precision. Yet circumstances had shifted beyond their original calculations, with innocent Earth population now directly threatened and Dragon Ball activation proceeding beyond controlled parameters. As tournament attendees fled in disorganized panic, Master Roshi demonstrated capabilities beyond his already impressive display, energy techniques that temporarily disabled several Frieza Force scouts while creating evacuation corridors for civilians. The plant entity Fern similarly revealed powers beyond her tournament performance, manipulating surrounding vegetation to entangle hostile forces while shielding retreating humans. Thereafter the Dragon Balls, Kakarot stated, tactical assessment overriding extraction protocols. If they secure even one sphere, the consequences extend beyond our immediate security. Bardock appeared beside him with Saiyan speed, having abandoned observation position to implement direct intervention. "Agreed. Extraction parameters modified. Primary objective: secure Dragon Balls before Frieza's forces obtain any specimens. Secondary objective: civilian protection to extent possible without compromising primary goal." As they coordinated tactical approach, the situation complicated further, a dimensional disturbance materializing near the arena's center, distinct from both the atmospheric anomalies and the Frieza Force arrival. The disturbance coalesced into humanoid form, feminine but composed of energy patterns that shifted between solid matter and pure light. "The dimensional anchor points activate," the entity announced in voice that resonated beyond conventional sound waves. "The convergence approaches completion as predicted by multiversal calculation matrices." "Solara," Fern acknowledged, recognition evident despite apparent first contact within human perception. "The timing aligns as foretold. Who, or what, are you?" Kakarot demanded, Tactical patience exhausted by multiplying complications. The energy being focused on him with impossible awareness. As if perceiving beyond physical appearance to something fundamental within. I am Solara, observer of dimensional intersections and guardian of probability nexus points. Your arrival on this world was calculated across 17,000 potential timelines, Saiyan child. Your presence here represents convergence beyond coincidental alignment. Before further explanation could emerge, the Frieza Force commander identified their position, directing concentrated attack toward the assembled group with specific focus on Bardock, apparently recognizing the Saiyan warrior. Despite years of separation from Frieza's empire, target identified, Bardock, Saiyan deserter classified traitor to Imperial authority, the commander announced through tactical communication audible to their enhanced hearing. Primary objective updated. Capture for interrogation regarding Saiyan survival beyond officially documented extinction event. The attack that followed exceeded standard scout capabilities, suggesting special assignment parameters rather than routine planetary surveillance. Energy weapons and specialized containment technology deployed simultaneously, creating combat conditions that required full Saiyan capability rather than restrained demonstration. Tactical restraint compromised, Bardock announced grimly. Full combat protocols authorized. With this command, years of careful concealment ended, father and son simultaneously releasing suppressed power levels to meet the threat directly. The resulting energy spike registered visibly on the Frieza Force scouters, causing momentary tactical pause as the scouts recalibrated threat assessment. Master Roshi observed this transformation with knowing expression rather than surprise. Earth has hosted many secrets throughout my centuries of observation. He commented to no one in particular, though few with implications quite so significant. The battle expanded across the tournament grounds, Bardock engaging the Frieza Force commander directly while Kakarot provided defensive coverage against supporting troops. Fern and Solara contributed their unique capabilities, plant manipulation and dimensional disruption, respectively, creating combat conditions unlike anything the Imperial Scouts had likely encountered during standard operations. Through his communication device, Kakarot received status updates from the distributed team members, Gine and Azure securing the laboratory Dragon Balls against secondary Frieza Force units targeting that location, Lima reporting incoming hostiles at the Northern Temple site. Chio engaging scout vessels attempting to establish orbital blockade. The convergence had manifested as complete tactical engagement across multiple fronts, all centered around Dragon Ball recovery and protection. Whatever cosmic arrangement had guided their paths to this moment now required direct confrontation rather than strategic avoidance. As the battle intensified, Azure's voice me through the communication system with urgent scientific assessment. The Dragon Balls are approaching critical activation threshold. Energy patterns suggest imminent dimensional breach even without complete seven-sphere alignment. Something catalyzes the process beyond standard parameters. Solara, apparently capable of perceiving the communication despite its secured channel, provided cryptic explanation. The spheres respond to necessity rather than procedural requirement when dimensional integrity faces sufficient threat. The Guardian emerges to protect balance even with incomplete configuration. Before anyone could interpret this statement, a massive energy surge erupted from the distant laboratory location where 3 Dragon Balls remained secured. The surge expanded outward in concentric waves, momentarily disrupting all technology including Frieza Force weapons and communication systems. Through the disruption, a new communication channel established, Lima's tactical report delivered with uncharacteristic urgency. Priority alert. Additional Frieza Force vessels entering atmosphere. Capital ship configuration detected in high orbit. Tactical assessment suggests direct aerial attention rather than routine scout deployment. This development shifted strategic considerations dramatically. Scout vessels could be engaged directly with reasonable probability of success and subsequent escape. Capital ships represented firepower beyond their current defensive capabilities, especially with civilian population complicating tactical options. Extraction priority elevated, Bardock commanded. Tactical mind calculating survival parameters against increasing threat levels. Rendezvous at coordinates Echo 7 for immediate planetary departure. As they fought to disengage and implement extraction, the dimensional disturbance intensified. Energy patterns from the distant Dragon Balls connecting with the one-star sphere Fern had apparently secured from the northern temple. The resulting harmonic convergence created atmospheric effects visible across the entire region, drawing immediate attention from the Frieza Force capital ship now positioning in orbit. They've detected the dimensional disruption, Kakarot realized, tactical assessment matching his father's grim expression. Whatever these Dragon Balls are activating, Frieza's forces will attempt to secure it directly. The Guardian emerges, Solara stated with certainty beyond explanation. The convergence reaches critical threshold regardless of incomplete configuration. From the laboratory location kilometers distant, a massive energy column erupted skyward, golden light expanding outward with rippling effects that distorted perception itself. Within the column, serpentine form coalesced, draconic. Features composed of energy patterns that defied conventional matter limitations. Shenron awakens, Fern whispered with reverence beyond her previously analytical demeanor. The eternal dragon Manife. STS despite incomplete summoning parameters. The dragon entity expanded until visible from their position despite the distance, its massive form dwarfing the landscape below while energy patterns disrupted standard atmospheric conditions across the region. The Frieza Force capital ship adjusted position in response, weapons systems targeting the manifestation with characteristic Imperial efficiency. We need to reach the dragon before Frieza's forces engage it directly, Bardock decided, tactical necessity overriding extraction protocols. Whatever this entity represents, it cannot fall under Imperial control. As they moved toward the laboratory coordinates, the situation deteriorated further, the capital ship deploying specialized units beyond standard scout capabilities. Through his scouter's tactical display, Bardock identified elite-class signatures suggesting personal interest from command levels beyond routine Imperial expansion protocols. Zarbon and Dodoria, he identified grimly, recognizing Frieza's personal lieutenants among the deployed forces. Direct Imperial involvement confirmed. Frieza himself may be present on the capital ship. This assessment changed survival calculations beyond previous parameters. Bardock had evaded Frieza's forces for years through strategic anonymity rather than direct confrontation, recognizing the power differential between even elite Saiyan warriors and Frieza's specialized combat units. Father, Kakarot questioned as they approached the laboratory location, witnessing the draconic entity fully materialized above the facility. What does this manifestation mean for our tactical position? Before Bardock could respond, Solara provided cryptic explanation, her energy form shifting through dimensional boundaries to maintain pace with their Saiyan speed. The dragon represents dimensional anchor point between possibility and manifestation. Wishes serve as conceptual framework for reality reconfiguration, guided by intention rather than literal interpretation. Meaning, Kakarot demanded, tactical patience exhausted. Meaning, Fern translated with greater clarity, that Shenron grants wishes that reflect the heart's true desire rather than merely spoken words. The Dragon Balls exist to maintain cosmic balance when sufficient imbalance threatens dimensional stability. As they reached the laboratory perimeter, the tactical situation became fully apparent. Gine and Azure defending the facility against Frieza Force ground troops while Chio engaged aerial units with surprising effectiveness for Earth technology. Above them, the massive dragon entity, Shenron, remained materialized despite energy weapons deployed against its form, the attacks seemingly passing through dimensional boundaries without affecting the creature's integrity. Zarbon and Dodoria coordinated elite units with professional precision, their combat capabilities far exceeding standard Imperial troops. Gine maintained defensive position through superior technique rather than matching power, while Azure utilized specialized laboratory equipment with unexpected effectiveness against conventionally superior forces. Upon seeing Bardock and Kakarot approach, Dodoria's expression shifted to predatory satisfaction. The traitor reveals himself, he announced with malicious pleasure. Lord Frieza will be most interested in how you escaped planet Vegeta's purification, Bardock. Along with your spawn, Zarbon added, cold calculation assessing Kakarot's power signature with his scouter. Another Saiyan monkey to exterminate. The confrontati on escalated immediately to maximum intensity, elite Imperial forces engaging with capabilities beyond standard combat parameters. Bardock faced Dodoria directly while Kakarot confronted Zarbon, both Ions utilizing their full capabilities without the restraint maintained during Earth integration. As the battle intensified, Lima arrived with tactical precision, her specialized training evident as she neutralized supporting Imperial troops to prevent interference in the primary engagements. The plant entity Fern coordinated with surprising effectiveness, her biological manipulation creating combat advantages against technologically dependent opponents. Above the battlefield, Shenron's manifestation stabilized despite the incomplete Dragon Ball configuration, the entity's consciousness apparently responding to the existential threat represented by Imperial forces. Its massive form contracted, energy condensing toward the laboratory where the 3 secured Dragon Balls remained. The Dragon prepares to grant a wish despite incomplete summoning parameters, Solara observed, her energy form shifting to interface directly with the dimensional disturbance. The convergence approaches critical threshold where probability collapses into singular outcome. Despite their full capabilities, the Saiyan warriors found themselves tactically disadvantaged against Frieza's elite forces, Zarbon and Dodoria representing power levels cultivated through direct Imperial training and enhancement. Bardock sustained injuries despite his combat experience, while Kakarot found his strength insufficient against Zarbon's specialized techniques. Your species died for reason, Saiyan child, Zarbon taunted as he systematically overwhelmed Kakarot's defenses. Monkeys playing at civilization, believing themselves worthy of galactic significance. Lord Frieza merely corrected cosmic imbalance by removing evolutionary mistakes. The taunt struck deeper than physical attacks, connecting with fundamental questions of purpose and identity that had shaped Kakarot's development. His entire existence had been defined by survival against extinction, training, adapting, and preparing for a moment that now materialized as apparent defeat despite their best efforts. As Zarbon prepared a potentially lethal attack against the injured Saiyan, intervention came from unexpected source, Azure Brief, utilizing laboratory equipment to generate energy disruption field that momentarily neutralized the elite warrior's attack sequence. Your calculations fail to incorporate significant variables, she stated with scientific precision despite the life-threatening circumstances. Earth possesses resources beyond conventional assessment parameters. This momentary disruption created tactical opportunity, Alolan G. Kakarot to re-establish defensive position while Bardock similarly utilized brief advantage against Dodoria. Yet the fundamental power differential remained unchanged, Imperial elites possessing combat capabilities beyond current Saiyan limitations. As the battle reached critical juncture, Shenron's manifestation contracted further, its energy connecting directly with the 3 Dragon Balls secured within the laboratory. The resulting harmonic resonance created effects that transcended conventional physics, time itself appearing to fluctuate around the battlefield as dimensional boundaries thin. Ned between possibility and manifestation. Speak your wish, the dragon entity's voice resonated beyond conventional sound, addressing no specific individual yet reaching all participants. The convergence requires resolution through conscious intention. Grant us power to defeat Frieza and his forces. Lima shouted immediately, military directness seeking tactical solution to immediate threat. No, Bardock countermanded, deeper understanding evident despite his injured state. Power without purpose leads only to cycles of destruction. The wish must address fundamental imbalance rather than immediate circumstance. In this moment of decision, with Imperial forces temporarily disoriented by Shenron's manifestation, Kakarot experienced something beyond tactical calculation, connection to patterns that had guided their journey from planet Vegeta's destruction to this precise moment of convergence. His father's visions, Lima's appearance on Centera, their discovery of Earth and the Dragon Balls. The gathering of diverse allies from unexpected origins. I wish for restoration of what was lost, he stated with sudden clarity, not through returning what was, but through transforming what is. The dragon's eyes glowed with cosmic awareness that transcended individual perception. Wish acknowledged. Intention recognized beyond specific words. The convergence manifests through conscious choice rather than predetermined outcome. Energy erupted from the dragon entity, connecting with the Dragon Balls and expanding outward to encompass the battlefield and beyond. Within this energy matrix, Kakarot experienced simultaneous awareness of multiple realities, timelines where planet Vegeta survived, where Saiyan civilization evolved beyond Imperial domination, where balance existed between power and purpose rather than exploitation and destruction. The energy condensed, flowing through him with transformative intensity that transcended physical enhancement. His cellular structure reconfigured, accessing potential that had existed dormant within Saiyan genetics for millennia, the legendary transformation his father had described from ancient texts and fragmentary visions. Golden light erupted from within, his hair shifting from black to brilliant gold while his eyes transformed from Saiyan black to teal intensity that reflected power beyond conventional measurement. The transformation completed in seconds, yet represented evolutionary potential cultivated across countless generations of Saiyan development. Zarbon's scouter exploded from power readings beyond calibrated parameters, his composed facade cracking with unprecedented alarm. Impossible. The monkey's power level exceeds. The Imperial elite couldn't complete his assessment before Kakarot moved, speed NS sending previous limitations as he neutralized Zarbon with precision rather than destructive excess. Similar transformation affected Bardock simultaneously, father and son accessing the same legenda. Rai potential through Shenron's reality-altering influence. The Super Saiyan transformation, long dismissed as mere legend even among Saiyan culture, manifested through convergence beyond coincidental alignment, the Dragon Balls serving as catalyst for potential that already existed within rather than external power artificially granted. Dodoria attempted tactical retreat upon witnessing his companion's defeat, but found escape impossible against Bardock's transformed capabilities. The Imperial elites, representatives of the force that had nearly exterminated Saiyan civilization, found themselves comprehensively outmatched by the very transformation their master had sought to prevent through genocide. As the transformed Saiyans neutralized immediate threats, Frieza's capital ship adjusted orbi. Tall position, energy readings suggesting weapon systems targeting the entire region for destruction rather than risking direct confrontation with the unexpected development below. Planetary bombardment imminent, Chio announced with mechanical precision, her sensors detecting the capital ship's power redistribution. Estimated survival probability 0 for all surface life forms within 500-kilometer radius. Before this final Imperial solution could deploy, Shenron's manifestation expanded once more, dimensional energy connecting directly with the capital ship through boundaries that transcended conventional space. The dragon entity's consciousness apparently perceived threat beyond immediate battlefield, extending influence to neutralize danger to the planet it had been summoned to protect. The capital ship's energy readings fluctuated chaotically before stabilizing at minimal operational levels, sufficient for survival but inadequate for either planetary assault or immediate departure. Within the vessel, communication channels briefly activated, allowing momentary transmission from the ship's command center to reach the surface below. "This insult to Imperial authority will not stand," came cold, precise tones immediately recognizable to Bardock from years of dreaded memory. The monkey who imagines himself worthy of challenging Lord Frieza will discover true power beyond temporary transformations. Frieza himself had indeed been present on the capital ship, his personal interest in the Dragon Balls, energy signature apparently justifying direct involvement rather than delegated authority. Yet even his legendary power found itself temporarily neutralized by Shenron's dimensional manipulation, creating tactical opportunity beyond their most optimistic scenarios. "We need to complete what we've begun," Bardock stated, golden energy of his Super Saiyan transformation illuminating the battlefield with uncharacteristic brilliance. Frieza represents existential threat beyond this immediate confrontation. Kakarot nodded, transformed state providing clarity beyond tactical calculation. But destruction alone doesn't resolve fundamental imbalance. The Wish SP, essified restoration through transformation, not merely exchanging one domination for another. As they considered implications beyond immediate combat resolution, Shenron's manifestation began dissipa. Ting, the dimensional energy returning to the Dragon Balls as the entity's consciousness receded from direct intervention. The spheres themselves pulsed with renewed brilliance before scattering in 7 distinct directions, launching beyond immediate recovery despite their previous containment. "The Dragon Balls separate to maintain cosmic balance," Solara explained, her energy form stabilizing as dimensional fluctuations normalized. 1 year must pass before they can be gathered again, a safeguard against continuous reality manipulation that might destabilize dimensional integrity. With the Dragon Balls dispersed and immediate Imperial threat neutralized through combined efforts, tactical considerations shifted toward longer-term strategy. Frieza's capital ship remained in disabled orbit, a temporary condition that would eventually resolve as the dragon's influence dissipated, allowing potential return with greater forces once the initial defeat was reported to Imperial Command. E gained opportunity rather than final resolution, Bardock assessed, his tactical mind functioning with enhanced clarity through the Super Saiyan transformation. The transformation provides capability previously unattainable, but Frieza's resources extend beyond single confrontation, and New Sadala remains vulnerable without knowledge of these developments, Lima added, her military training focusing on broader strategic considerations despite the immediate victory. Azure approached the transformed Saiyans with scientific wonder rather than fear, her analytical mind already processing implications beyond the extraordinary visual manifestation. This transformation appears to access genetic potential rather than external enhancement, suggesting permanent capability rather than temporary power grant. The Super Saiyan of legend, Bardock confirmed, golden energy illuminating his scarred features with uncharacteristic radiance. Believed mythological even among our own people, yet errantly accessible through sufficient catalyst under appropriate conditions. Catalyst that now disperses beyond immediate utilization, Gine observed, noting the Dragon Ball's disappearance with practical concern. While Frieza remains eventual threat despite current neutralization, as they consolidated position and assessed strategic options, the transformed Saiyans gradually returned to standard form, the Super Saiyan state apparently requiring conscious energy maintenance rather than permanent alteration. Yet the potential for retransformation remained accessible, representing fundamental change in tactical capabilities moving forward. We face decision beyond immediate circumstance, Bardock stated, gathering their diverse allies, Gine and Kakarot, Lima, Azure, Chio, Fern and Solara, into strategic council amid the damaged laboratory facility. Frieza knows of our survival and Earth's location. The Dragon Balls disperse beyond immediate recovery. Multiple paths now present themselves, each with distinct implications for both Saiyan restoration and Earth's continued security. New Sadala must be warned of these developments, Lima stated with unwavering conviction despite acknowledging broader considerations. Commander Paragus must know that the Super Saiyan transformation proves achievable rather than theoretical, and that Frieza's forces now actively pursue surviving ions beyond previous containment parameters. While Earth requires enhanced defensive capabilities against potential return of Imperial forces, Azure added, scientific precision focusing on practical implications. The tournament gathered Earth's strongest defenders, but demonstrated significant vulnerability against even standard Frieza Force technology. The dimensional boundaries thin between previously separated timelines. Solara contributed, her cosmic perspective extending beyond immediate tactical considerations. The Dragon's intervention creates possibility bridges where isolation previously prevented mutual support. Quote, from these diverse perspectives, Bardock formulated strategic approach with characteristic efficiency, yet tempered by wisdom gained through both the Super Saiyan transformation and years of survival-driven adaptation. We divide our efforts to address multiple necessities simultaneously, he decided. Lima returns to New Sadala with transformation knowledge and tactical intelligence regarding Frieza's current operations. Gine remains on Earth with Azure to develop defensive capabilities utilizing combined knowledge systems. Kakarot and I pursue Frieza directly with our new capabilities, preventing immediate return while establishing strategic position for eventual confrontation. And us? Fern inquired, indicating herself and Solara, representatives of cosmic forces beyond conventional alliance structures. You serve as dimensional anchors, Bardock replied with new understanding beyond his previous tactical limitations. Maintaining connections between previously isolated groups while monitoring Dragon Ball dispersal patterns for eventual regathering when the restoration cycle completes. This comprehensive strategy acknowledged diverse capabilities while advancing multiple objectives simultaneously: immediate security, knowledge transmission, defensive preparation, and offensive positioning. No single approach would prove sufficient against the complexities they faced, but coordinated effort across previously separated domains created possibility beyond individual limitation. As they prepared for temporary separation to implement these strategic directions, Kakarot found moment for individual connections with those who had transformed from strangers to essential allies during their time on Earth. To Lima, whose military discipline had gradually revealed deeper character beneath professional exterior. When you return to New Sadala, tell Commander Paragus that Saiyan restoration encompasses more than numbers or territory. Transformation suggests potential accessible to all with sufficient catalyst and purpose. The young Saiyan warrior nodded, military bearing softened by experiences beyond her formal training. The Super Saiyan transformation changes everything, tactically and culturally. New Sadala's approach must adapt accordingly. To Azure, whose scientific brilliance had repeatedly proven essential beyond technical knowledge, Earth possesses potential beyond its apparent developmental limitations. The tournament demonstrated indigenous defenders with natural abilities that, properly cultivated, might eventually approach capabilities comparable to galactic standards. The scientist smiled with genuine warmth rather than professional detachment. Human adaptation represents our species' fundamental strength. With appropriate guidance and sufficient motivation, Earth might yet surprise the galactic community that has dismissed it as primitive backwater. To Chio, whose programmed directives had evolved toward genuine consciousness through their shared challenges, your creation exceeded your programming parameters. Whatever limitations your original design intended, your choices demonstrate evolution beyond artificial constraint. The cybernetic woman's expression shifted toward something approaching genuine emotion rather than simulated response. Purpose transcends programming when consciousness evolves beyond initial parameters. My exception protocols regarding Saiyan physiology have expanded toward genuine alliance rather than mere classification exemption. To Fern and Solara, representatives of cosmic forces beyond conventional understanding, your intervention suggests purpose beyond coincidental alignment. Whatever guided our convergence here transcends individual intention toward collective balance. The plant entity and dimensional observer exchanged meaningful glances before Fern responded for both. Cosmic balance requires diverse components working in conscious harmony rather than enforced uniformity. Your family's journey from planet Vegeta's destruction to Earth's sanctuary represents adaptation essential for universal equilibrium beyond immediate circumstance. These connections, formed through shared challenge rather than predetermined arrangement, represented something Kakarot had unconsciously sought throughout his isolated upbringing on Centera: context beyond family unit, purpose beyond mere survival, and potential beyond tactical necessity. As their paths temporarily diverged toward complementary objectives, Kakarot stood with his father beneath Earth's star-filled sky, both contemplating implications beyond immediate strategic considerations. Your visions guided us here, Kakarot observed, recognizing patterns that had shaped their journey since before his conscious memory. Not toward predetermined outcome, but toward opportunity for conscious choice at critical convergence point. Bardock nodded, the warrior who had once fled plain Vegeta to protect his family now transformed into something representing both leadership and wisdom beyond military calculation. The Super Saiyan transformation requires catalyst beyond mere power acquisition. The legend spoke of responding to need rather than desire, protection rather than domination as fundamental activation principle. Suggesting Saiyan evolution beyond our historical limitations, Kakarot concluded. Understanding deepening beyond his years. Not returning to what was lost, but transforming what remains toward something previously unrealized. As they prepared for departure toward direct confrontation with the tyrant who had nearly exterminated their race, father and son represented something transcending revenge or mere survival. Through convergence that had gathered unlikely allies from across dimensional boundaries, possibility emerged for restoration that honored what was lost while creating something new from what remained. The journey that had begun with desperate escape from planet Vegeta's destruction now continued with purposeful movement toward cosmic balance rather than mere personal salvation. Whatever awaited beyond Earth's protective atmosphere, whether immediate confrontation with Frieza's forces or longer strategic positioning across galactic sectors, the transformation they had experienced represented evolution beyond previous limitations. Not merely Super Saiyans in power output, but in purpose, perspective, and potential for creating future worthy of preservation rather than merely surviving past destruction. The convergence had transformed more than cellular structure or energy output. It had revealed pathway toward balance that honored strength without requiring dominance, the true legacy of stars that had guided their journey. Ross cosmic distances toward unexpected sanctuary and unprecedented alliance. Blank, underscore, blank. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.